Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay. Yeah, well, come on. I thought we had a good crowd here this morning. Good morning, everyone. Okay. First thing that I asked, since we have a full room, cell phones on silent. Okay, no musical numbers. Me too. I hear you. Pipe down. I got the. And if you have to have an emergency or take a call or whatever, please go out in the hall. But we got a full schedule, and County Manager, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Commissioners, let's begin with our invocation and pledge of allegiance. The invocation will be led by Pastor Greg Ball of Destiny Church, Naples.
And good morning, everybody. Good morning, Commissioners. Let's bow our hearts for prayer. Good morning, Holy Spirit, and thank you for this day. We ask you to give wisdom and clarity today. Your word tells us in James 1:5, if we lack wisdom, to ask God. And God, we ask you, the God of wisdom, to help today. Lord, as we gather for this meeting, we ask you to give our commissioners clarity so they can effectively tackle each part of today's agenda. Reveal problem areas and show them the best solutions that will apply. Give them eyes to see every positive outcome, and let these favorable results and developments encourage every heart in the room. God, will you help them apply your wisdom as they decide certain matters and make plans? This we ask in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. And we have a true superstar, patriot, and loyal, dedicated servant to our county sitting right here at the front row, and I ask Judge Martin to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ma'am?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was really just a smoke screen. There's 7 of you that have outstanding warrants. Ma'am, do your stuff.
It'll be up front.
You're the first one, all right, whoever that was. Oh, you think it's up here? We got a couple up here? It's possible. It's possible. County Manager?
Commissioners, that brings us...
Who said that? Listen, who said that? Where's my bailiff or whoever? Ma'am?
Item 2, agenda and minutes. I will take you through our brief change sheet. The only item we have is just a note that companion items 9A and 9B to be heard no sooner than 10 a.m. This is a growth management plan amendment ordinance creating the Airport Carlisle mixed-use subdistrict to allow the Carlisle Assisted Living Facility, and rezoning ordinance for the Haven at North Naples MPUD to allow the Carlisle Assisted Living Facility. Just a note, we have court reporter breaks set for 10:30 and 2:50. With that, I'll turn it over to the county attorney for any changes.
Thank you. No changes.
Commissioner LaCastro and commissioners, any changes?
Any changes? Commissioner Cole?
No changes.
Commissioner Saunders?
I have no changes.
Okay. Commissioner Hall?
Negatory.
Okay. Commissioner McDaniel?
No changes. You want disclosures as well?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I'm sorry.
Ex parte.
Yep.
I on 17A, I have had meetings and emails.
Okay. Commissioner Hall, I'll go back
None
to
for
you.
summary or consent for me.
Okay. Commissioner Cole, any disclosures?
Nothing on summary or consent.
Okay. Commissioner Saunders?
And I have no disclosure on summary as well.
Okay. And I have no disclosures on summary as well either. Okay.
If I could get a motion to approve the agenda.
Also move.
Okay. Got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Passes. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Item 2B is approval of the minutes from March 28th, 2023.
Okay. Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move to approve both B and C.
Okay. Motion to approve B and C. Do I have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Item 3 is awards and recognitions. Item 3A1 are 20-year attendees. First, 20 years, James Zuver, Transportation Engineering.
It's pretty heavy. Thank you for your service, sir. Good morning. Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
There you go, right there in the center. Thanks.
20 years. Harris Demond, Transportation Engineering. Right?
You know him like for a while. You know, forever. Yeah. Commissioner McDaniel said he knows you for a long time. If you'd like to make any comments at the podium after, we'd like to hear, you know, just how much you might know. Yeah, how much.
You got to keep it secret now.
And when you have trouble with the traffic signal, call and ask for Harris.
20 years. Dan Summers, Bureau of Emergency Services.
Dan, with all the hurricanes, it feels a lot longer, right? It feels a lot longer. Thank you, sir.
Item 3A3, 30-year attendees. 30 years, Michael Patton, Road Maintenance. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Michael. Appreciate you.
That moves us to item 4, proclamations. Item 4A is a proclamation designating May 2023 as National Drug Court Month to be accepted by Honorable Janice T. Martin, Presiding Judge, Collier County Drug Court.
Judge, if you wanted to say anything at the podium, it's totally up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I know you have a lot to do today, so I'll be very brief. Just on behalf of members of our drug court team, members of our drug court, some active participants, as well as some alumni who have come back to be a part of this today, I just want to say a couple of quick things. The pastor this morning spoke of wisdom, solutions, positive outcomes, hope. There you go. That's drug court. And I want to thank you all for your wisdom and your leadership in supporting the solutions and the outcomes that we focus on. I could not be more proud than to step into our public square and stand beside the men and women who make this happen. Our participants are your neighbors, your sons, your daughters, sisters, brothers. They are parents, moms and dads who are working hard to turn their lives around, reunite with their families, and become productive members of our community. And so welcoming them in here the way that you have really reinforces the message that their futures are so much bigger than their past, and their hard work is recognized and well worth it. So I thank you for this opportunity and the honor to step in here with everybody that we care so much about. Thank you for your support.
Judge, I just wanted to add, I got to serve on a committee with Judge Martin for 2 years, and now Commissioner Kowal serves on that committee. Your success rate is unbelievably impressive, and I know it takes a team, it takes a village, whatever the statement is, but what it takes is leadership, and it takes caring and dedication and the hard work also by the folks that you're trying to help who really dive in with both feet. So without getting into all the statistics and the metrics, every citizen in Collier County would be impressed with the success that you and your team have had. So we thank you for all your hard work and that of your team. Thank you, ma'am.
Definitely.
Item 4B is a proclamation designating May 2023 as National Foster Care Month, to be accepted by Linda Goldfield, CEO, Youth Haven, Denise Murphy, and Nadera Salim, CEO, Children's Network of Southwest Florida.
Linda, if you want to say a few words, totally up to you.
Thank you, County Commissioners, for your continued support of the foster care system in Collier County. State of Florida has the third highest rate of children that are in foster care. Together as a community, it's our responsibility to take care of these children. Youth Haven is the only homeless shelter in our community for children who've been removed by from their homes by the Department of Children and Family Services for abuse, neglect, and oftentimes homelessness. The reality is children are staying with us longer and longer, although we are meant to be a temporary housing situation to a more permanent one can be found. We do not have enough foster care families in our community. Children belong in traditional families, and I ask all of you, if you have it in your hearts, to become a foster care parent so children can live in a traditional family. And again, on behalf of our children that we serve, 45 children living on our campus, thank you for all of your support. Thank you.
I have
Commissioner Saunders wants to, sir?
if
I could ask you a quick question, if you wouldn't mind, just a quick question. First of all, thank you for everything that you do. But you said something that kind of stuck out. You said that Florida had the third highest rate.
Of children living in,
That's not the third highest number, which you would expect.
third highest, I misspoke, third highest number of children in foster care. Yes.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Item 4C is a proclamation designating May 2023 as Trauma Awareness Month in Collier County, to be accepted by Dr. Leslie Lachade, member of the Regional Advisory Committee on Trauma Services.
I've been looking for you since my first commissioner meeting.
You want to make some comments?
Item 4D is a proclamation designating May 2023 as Drowning Prevention Month in Collier County, to be accepted by Coral Vargas, Coordinator, NCH Safe and Healthy Children's Coalition of Collier County.
There's a duck.
Second one I got. That's all right. I got the city. How you going?
Hello, how are you?
Morning. Morning.
Hello, how are you? Seen you in a while?
I am.
I'm behind, Godzilla. I don't think I need to move it. I can't go anywhere.
Ready? Here we go. On three, smile. 1, 2, 3. Don't move. 1, don't move. Smile. You're okay.
Thank you. I'm behind Brian Bosworth. Hey, congratulations on your daughter, graduating. Yeah.
Coming back up.
The duck this morning is being played by Sheriff Kevin Rambosk, if anybody was curious.
Thank you so much, County Commissioners, for once again proclaiming May to be Drowning Prevention Month. We value our partnership not only through this month, but throughout the entire year. Drowning is the leading cause of death for children between the ages of 1 to 4 in Florida. The last 2 years have been the highest recorded numbers in Florida since the Department of Children and Families started collecting data. But we are very fortunate here in Collier County to have, as you guys all saw, so many amazing partners and organizations working together to make Collier County water safe. Collier County Parks and Recreation have been an integral part of our water safety and drowning prevention initiatives. Under the leadership of Olima Edwards, her team is amazing. We were able to bring back the duck race after it was canceled after COVID and after Hurricane Ian, actually. And the team at Sugden Park, Michael Tulin, Philip, and Patricia, and James Hammerhand were integral in bringing it back. We've also been able to continue Swim Central. Thanks to the Naples Children Education Foundation, more than 10,000 children and over 80,000 water safety lessons have been taught through our partnership with Collier County Parks and Recreation, being led by Samantha Hernandez with the Golden Gate Aquatics facility. She has been an integral part in Swim Central. And we're also happy to share that all 15 life jacket loaner stations from Kids Don't Float Life Jackets Do programs have been brought back. They were unfortunately all destroyed during Hurricane Ian, but because of the amazing collaboration, we've been able to bring all 15 back, and they were placed just in time for Water Safety Month and for the summer for families visiting our beaches and our lakefronts. Another amazing partner is the Department of Health of Collier County. They just did Wear Your Life Jacket to Work Day on Friday, and they got the Public Services Department involved, and it was really nice seeing all the pictures being shared, and they're doing amazing stuff. And that goes for everybody who's a part of the coalition, Wave Drowning Detection Systems, the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Flotillas, the NCH Healthcare System, Collier Cares. So many people are part of this, and we thank you all because we couldn't do it without you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4E is a proclamation designating May 21st through 27th, 2023 as Emergency Medical Services Week in Collier County, to be accepted by Tabitha Butcher, EMS Chief, and EMS professionals.
Yeah, right, left, right, left. All right.
For the record, Tabitha Butcher, Chief of Collier County EMS. Thank you for this proclamation, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I also want to thank the County Manager and the Deputy County Manager for their continued support to make EMS a successful team. May 21 to 27, 2023 is the 49th Annual National EMS Week. In 1974, President Gerald Ford authorized EMS Week to celebrate EMS practitioners and the important work that they do in our nation. Providing emergency medical care isn't an easy job, but day after day, EMTs and paramedics go to work with one goal in mind: to protect the health and safety of our community. This group here is a fraction of the dedicated professionals that truly exceed the expectations of their patients and our community each day. I want to thank all of them, from the team that work behind the scenes to the boots in the field. I'm proud of them, and I'm proud to be part of this team. So thank you again for recognizing Collier County EMS.
Chief.
That brings us to item 5, presentations. Item 5A is a presentation. Let me stop for a second. We need a motion to accept the proclamations.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Let me start again. Item 5A is a presentation of the 2023 Florida Water Environment Association Collection System of the Year Awards, large utility category. This award is given in recognition of outstanding maintenance programs, regulatory compliance, and safety training procedures, to be accepted by Robert Von Holly, Public Utilities Department Division Director, Wastewater. Congratulations.
They got it already?
Yeah, they probably just got recognized.
Item 7, public comments on general topics not on the current or future agenda. Troy.
Mr. Chair, we have 3 registered speakers at this time. Your first speaker is Garrett FX Byrent, and he will be followed by Susan Cohn.
For the record, Garrett FX Byrent, I'm here because a policeman saved my life the other day. I mean, it was a horrible situation. My car broke down. It was one of those flood cars that the lady sold me on Marco Island. It said it wasn't a flood car. Anyhow, that was my 3rd flood car. It was broken down at the entrance to the Walmart in the turn lane the day before Mother's Day. People were zipping by me going 90 miles an hour, and the tow truck didn't show up. The police cars were all over the place. And finally, a community service policeman pulled up and said, "Do you think I can jump it?" And he was like in the wrong lane too. And I said, "We could try." He came around to jump it, and my daughter had already arrived with a little teeny jumper box. It's like a battery box. And this policeman turns around. He tries to block. The cars are going 75 miles an hour because it's the holiday and everybody's running around like crazy people. And they missed that guy like 3 times by 3 inches. And he's being careful. He parks it on an angle, right? And he gets out with his cones, and they're not slowing down. This guy is like, I'm saying, you're going to get killed before they kill me. And they should kill me first. And he says, it's okay. He says, I can do this. He says, I just got to be really careful because those people that are coming at me are not watching. They're on their cell phones, and they're going 75 in an air-conditioned cube. And they're just going, shoo, shoo, shoo. So what happens is he actually says, I'm going to pull around in front of you before this lady runs me over in a black BMW who's got her phone in front of her face. And he actually pulls around in front of me with a gigantic jumper, and he gets my car running. And he gets in front of me and stops the traffic. And they're not stopping. It's like Paris. Have you ever been there at the Circle? It's insane, right? Nobody does nothing. In any case, I said, you know what? I'm going to actually go before the county commission next Tuesday, okay? And I'm going to shout out for you. And oddly enough, 20 minutes later, I'm at Panera. This guy is already at Panera handling a violent situation, a very bad situation. He was diffusing it. And his name, and of course, you can't just call up and find out policeman's name. So I said, give me your card. This is his card. His name is W. Browse or Bros. His badge number is 4616. And I want to shout out and thank him for what he did, because my daughter would have died with me, and that would have been a tragedy. Not because I died, but because my daughter died. And once again, thank you for all these community service guys. They handle more than just traffic. They go to everything. They really do, and they're great guys. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Susan Cohn, and she will be followed by Jane Schlechtweg.
Good morning. My name is Susan Cohn, and I'm a volunteer with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. And I am here with some of our other volunteers from our Southwest Florida group to raise awareness about gun violence in our community and offer a solution. We attended the City of Naples Council meeting last week to thank the mayor and the council members for issuing a proclamation declaring the first Friday in June National Gun Violence Awareness Day. We were hopeful that the Collier County Commission would join thousands of counties across the country to do the same, but unfortunately, we were unable to find a commissioner willing to sponsor the proclamation. June 3rd and 4th is Wear Orange weekend. Orange is the color that hunters wear in the woods to avoid getting shot, and it has become the color of the gun violence prevention movement. And I can see that there's a lot of people here with orange shirts on, so we invite you to get them back out that weekend and wear them and join thousands of us across the country to raise awareness about gun violence. And check out wearorange.org and find an event near you. Moms Demand Action is grassroots, nonpartisan. We support the Second Amendment, and we have over 10 million supporters, just like us across the country, working together for a future that will be free from gun violence. Education and awareness remain our most valuable tools, so in that spirit, I'm going to share some facts with you. Every single day, there are 120 people killed by guns in this country, and over 200 are wounded. 2/3 of gun deaths are suicides. 4.6 million children live in a home with a loaded, unsecured firearm. Roughly 3/4 of the school shooters get their guns from their home or the homes of friends or family. Guns are the #1 cause of death in children between the age of 1 and 19 in our country. So our community is no exception to these statistics. Don't fool yourself. So we have a specific ask. We have a program. It's called the Be Smart program. It is geared towards adults, and it focuses on education and awareness about how secure gun storage can save children's lives. And we want your help spreading this information. We do presentations in the community. We have printed information and digital information. So far, we have partnered with the Collier County Sheriff's Department, the Collier County Public School Board, and the Naples Community Hospital to spread this information. And we would like your help, maybe some connections. I will follow up with you with an email, perhaps the Department of Health, but we would like your help. So thank you very much.
Your next speaker is Jane Schlechtweg. This will be your final speaker under item 7.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jane Schlechtweg. I represent the Collier County Democratic Executive Committee, and we are here asking you to support the Moms Demand Action resolution to prevent gun violence here in Collier County. Susan has given you a lot of good information, statistics on why a program to keep our children safe is important. And I just want to add that because of the recent change in the law where now permitless carry is available to anyone in any mental state without training can carry a gun, we will probably see a rise in domestic violence. So the Collier County Democratic Executive Committee is urging you to take action and support this resolution. Thank you.
That's our final speaker on this item.
Thank you, Commissioners. That brings us to item 10, Board of County Commissioners. Item 10A is a recommendation to appoint the initial membership of the Coastal Storm Risk Management Feasibility Study Ad Hoc Advisory Committee. And I will look to County Attorney Klatskow.
I would suggest we start with this by going from district to district, with the commissioner in the district making whatever nomination.
I just want to say one thing to all my fellow commissioners. Thanks so much for shaking the trees, hard. I mean, if you look at the applications we got, we got not only a good amount, but boy, some real superstars. Some real citizens who have stepped forward, who have deep resumes, and that's what we want on this committee. So, it goes without saying, I'm sure you're going to shoot notes back to your constituents, but often that's not the case. We have right 2 seats, 2 applications. It's not to say that the folks aren't qualified, but in this particular case, we got a really nice spread. And thanks to you, Mr. Klatskow, and your team, and the county manager for making it easier for us and sending us all the paperwork and whatnot. So I think we got a good group here to select from. Commissioner McDaniel.
Just, I believe there were some other applicants that that didn't actually make this agenda. Is that correct?
That's correct. I sent an email to a one-way communication to all 5 commissioners yesterday.
Okay.
Those were the final applications we received.
Okay, very good.
That's sir.
Again, I would suggest you go by commission district number and make whatever nomination you feel appropriate.
My computer here is totally locked, so Troy, you're gonna have to come up here at the break. I just have a big white screen. I can't see anything, and I didn't print out that list in front of me. I wanted to pull it up here, but it goes without saying. So Commissioner Saunders, why don't you
All right.
lead off? We don't have the ability to put anything on the screen, do we? In the overhead.
We have 2 applicants from District 3, Paul Shea and Joshua Maxwell. Paul Shea has been incredibly active in supporting Collier County. He's on the Planning Commission, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and so he's really very active. Joshua Maxwell has some incredible assets in terms of his experience, as well as does Mr. Shea. I'm going to recommend Joshua Maxwell. Joshua is not involved in any committees at this point, and I think we'll have more time to devote to it. That's not to diminish in any way Paul Shea's resume and application, but I think because of his already involvement, that I would appoint Joshua Maxwell.
And I can I say something?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned to have this many superstars to pick from is a wonderful thing, but it's also a curse at the same time. Who we end up choosing to serve in this committee really doesn't diminish anyone else's capacities or abilities, and Commissioner Saunders said that very, very well. Both those 2 individuals are very much qualified, and we're all faced with difficult decisions here.
And I would note there are also 2 at large, so after you see the district commissioners.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. When we have sort of like a small cadre left over that could have easily been selected, obviously that's going to be our next move. Okay, so I just kicked it over randomly to District 3. We'll go district by district. So, sir, is that your nominee? Yes, sir. Okay, so we have a nomination. We do this just like a normal, got a nomination. Do we take a second and then we all vote in favor just like we do all the committees, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a nomination. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
For Paul Shea? Okay. Nomination, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Let me kick it over to District 4.
Thank you, Chairman. I had 14 applicants, so I'm probably not going to go
Are
through.
you giving out Rolex watches for applications or what?
Nah, but I kind of narrowed it down to a few, and one that I kind of want to represent, District 4, and then possibly throw another one in as a possible at large, just because of his background in this particular area. And just as a representative for now for District 4, I'd like to recommend Scott Schultz. who's a full-time resident in Naples Cay, who's represents both the county and the city and where he lives, an area that was definitely impacted, and it's always impacted just from normal wear and tear from our shorelines. So and he carries an abundance resume from being on boards all over and traveling all over the country, representing different governments in different capacities, and just well-versed in a lot of different areas. But that's going to be my nomination for District 4 at this time.
Second.
Okay, got a nomination and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, go over to District 2.
So I got some good people, and I'm going to save one of them for the at-large because he is like the superstar. So I'm going to pick Miles Schofield. Rocky's what he goes by. Rocky's got he grew up here in Naples, and he's got a whole history of hands-on experience on the coastline, and I think he'll be a real asset to the committee. And then we have a latecomer, Ken Humiston, with Moore and Humiston. He's got a master's in coastal management and coastal construction. So I'm going to hold him out for the at-large, but I'm going to nominate Rocky Schofield.
I'll second that.
Second.
Mayor.
Got a nomination and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Schofield passes unanimously. Okay, go to District 5.
I'd like to nominate Alex Garland.
Okay. Got a nomination for Alex Garland. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, nomination and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Where are my District 1 folks on there? Do they not make the spreadsheet? I can only see what's on the screen here because my screen's gone totally blue.
There was one in the email I sent.
Yeah, so I'll just cut to the chase then. So we had a few, but I think y'all know Joe Schmidt. He serves on a lot of different, he serves on the Planning Commission, but he also does so many other things. He applied, and I actually reached out and talked with him and a couple of others. What I really like about Joe, I think you all know, he has a lot of depth with the Army Corps. Yeah, I got his application. Oh, these are all of them. Thank you, sir. What I really like is not only does he have depth with the Army Corps, but even when he serves on the Planning Commission, he just offers his expertise. He doesn't try to oversell anything to anybody else. He doesn't try to take over the meeting as Colonel Schmidt or any of those type of things. So we get his expertise, and I think for this, there's been so much miscommunication or misunderstanding about what the Army Corps is doing and what we're not doing that he will really be a steady hand to guide people as far as the Army Corps' responsibilities, and then also what is our responsibility. And he filled out an application very, very quickly, and had a great conversation with him. So I nominate Joe Schmidt from my District 1 seat. Do I have a second?
Second.
Nomination and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, now let's talk about the two at-large seats, and let's get two heavy hitters. Who's got a nomination for an at-large seat? It sounded like Commissioner Hall had one.
Yes, sir. So Ken Humiston has given us an application late, and I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, but he's got a
Second.
okay, good.
The
There you
first thing
go.
I just wanted to do first was to see how many of you have at-large nominations, because if we have 5, then we have to narrow it down to 2, so I don't want it to be a first-come, first-served thing. So you have Ken as one. Commissioner McDaniel, do you have an at-large?
I'm good.
You like Ken. Commissioner Colwell, do you have an at-large
Yes,
nominee?
I do. Matthew Knowlton.
Second that one too.
He is, like we said, superstars. He comes in 40 years experience when it comes to Florida general contracting, professional engineer licensed in this particular field. He's was told to me basically by most people here in this town that he definitely knows what's good for us and what's not. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's my recommendation for.
Commissioner Saunders, did you have an at-large nominee?
I do not.
Okay. And I don't think I will either. I think we've got 2, so I'll go Commissioner Hall on your nominee of Ken. Do I have a second? And I think we did. So all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Commissioner Colwell's already made a motion on his nominee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, nomination and a second. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Those folks have an important job to do, and we'll be looking for their recommendations and their feedback.
There you go.
Okay, County Manager.
Item 10B is a recommendation to appoint the initial membership of the East of 951 Ad Hoc Advisory Committee. County Attorney.
Yeah, there are no district seats for this one. There are 5 regular members and 2 alternates.
What was that? I missed the beginning of that. Go ahead. Whoa.
Yeah, there aren't any district seats for this. So you've got a list of proposed applicants for this. There'll be 5 regular members, and we're doing 2 alternate members to this committee.
And I'm kind of the one that's instigated this, if you would like me to grab on and have a little discussion.
Yeah, I actually had asked in a pre-meeting, and why, where's all the nominees? Why is it only 5 and 3? And then obviously, if you dig into it, it's really heavy in those 2 districts. So you would expect you would want your nominees to be. So, sir, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In 2006, I believe, Commissioner Collier established a committee called the East of 951 Committee. Horizon Study, East 951 Horizon Study Committee, and they scheduled the first meeting for that group in October of 2006, and no one had consulted with me about my travel plans for Colorado and things that I was doing outside, and I missed the first meeting. And Russell Pretty was one of the nominees that was on that committee, and when he looked around the room and didn't see me, he was like, I thought McDaniel was on this committee. And they said, oh, yeah, but he's off in Colorado. And he said, well, I'll nominate him to be chair. So there I was 2 years later serving as chair of that committee. I found it to be invaluable to the community, to the residents, the information that was disseminated to the residents about what is transpiring in eastern Collier County. The entire premise was to go through departmentally what was in fact transpiring, and then have the community make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. For what it's worth, all of those things transpired except for the last, and that was after the board was the 19 recommendations that committee actually came forth with. Not many were actually effectuated. So the dynamics of eastern Collier County, east of 951, are rather tricky. Just there's a couple of independent organizations that are doing their thing out there. I do a monthly evening with the commish that I do once a month on the second Wednesday of each month. So my thought was, let's try to regroup the East of 951 Horizon Study, call it the 2.0, and bring in some community leaders and reestablish this committee. So I've gone through the list, and Commissioner Saunders, this group encompasses both of our districts after the redistricting that recently transpired. So, and I think the way we have this set up is 5 with 2 alternates, Jeffrey?
Yes, sir.
I believe that's the case. So, and I'm going to lean over to Commissioner Saunders and ask how you wish to proceed with this. I mean, I think probably the goal would be for us to come up to a consensus of the 5 with 2 alternates, and then have the balance of the board ratify it.
Well, there are 3 applicants, pardon me, from District 3, and there are about 6 or 8 or 9, I guess, from District 5. I'd like to make sure that there's some representation from District 3 on the original 5.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, you probably know these folks a little bit more than I do, but I do want to see Michael Ramsey to be on the committee.
Okay. I also like Christina Aguilera. She's very active in Immokalee, lives in District 3, and Christina's, I think she, if I'm not mistaken, she currently serves on, or did serve on either our CRA or MSTU in Immokalee as well.
Right. And I have no issues with the other 5 appointees coming from District 5.
Okay. Well, I'd like to nominate Kim Ellis. I'd like to nominate Bob Raines. I'd like to nominate Mark Teeters.
I count that as 5.
5.
Okay.
And you need 2 alternates.
Christina Aguilera and Michael Ramsey.
Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those will be the 5 primary. And then as far as alternates go, Ray Ann and or Jill and Zeifel. Zeifel is the other one, is the other name, Aaron. So, and Aaron's done a very good job. So I'd like to nominate as the alternates Ray Ann and Aaron Zeifel. Okay with that?
And I'll make a motion to approve those 7 appointees.
Okay, Commissioner Hall's lit up. Was it about this?
No,
or
it
is that
was
old? Okay, so we got a motion to nominate 5 seats and 2 at large. Got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all 7 pass unanimously.
Okay.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 11A. 11A is a recommendation to approve the continuation of the Collier Health Services, Inc. Community Health Workers to address health disparities among those affected by mental health and substance abuse, and approve the use of Community Development Block Grant, CV, and state and local fiscal recovery funds to support the project. Ms. Christy Sontag, your Community and Human Services Division Director, is here to present.
Good morning, Commissioners. Would you like me to go through the presentation or answer some? Okay. All right. With that being said, the item before you today is the funding to support the Collier Health Services Community Health Worker Program. For some history, the board directed staff following their February 28, 2023 board meeting to look for alternative funding sources to support the continuation of the outreach program for primary health care services. Staff has identified funding to support the Healthcare Network program through December of 2024. The funding includes $125,625 from Community Development Block Grant, and the through September 30th of 2023, and $315,000 from state, local fiscal recovery funds from October of 2023 through December of 2024. The proposed project will actually include 2 agreements because there are 2 different funding sources. The scope of service will include 6 community support healthcare workers that will focus primarily on mental health and substance abuse. They will offer primary care referrals. They will offer referrals for mental health and substance abuse services. In addition, they will conduct mental health and substance abuse outreach events. The outcomes proposed under the agreement, we would look at the number of clients served, the number of referrals to provider agencies, so including medical and mental health agencies, and we would also include a measurement of outreach events. Oops, sorry. The project would be evaluated through Florida Gulf Coast University as the state and local fiscal recovery funds require those funds to be evaluated by an independent evaluator. So the recommendation is to approve the continuation of the community health worker service contract using Community Development Block Grant and state and local fiscal recovery funds. With that, I'll take any questions.
I have one, but Commissioner Saunders, go to you, sir.
Pardon me. Quick question. You've said this, but I just want to clarify, make sure it's clear on the record. I've gotten some request for justification for using county tax dollars, ad valorem tax dollars for this type of a program. I believe from what you've presented that there are no Collier County ad valorem tax dollars in this appropriations request.
You are correct. The funding sources are both federal in origin, Community Development Block Grant that comes from Housing and Urban Development, and state and local fiscal recovery, which comes from the U.S. Treasury.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, we have some public comment. Let me go to Commissioner Hall first.
So I've had some additional concerns about why we partner with certain people. And so I asked the question yesterday, so just for the record, I want to clear it up. Why do we partner with NGOs with grant money or with other things? And the answer was a good answer. And it was so that we can provide services to Collier County residents that the county normally does not provide. And that is the reason for the partnership. what is the process for maybe allowing, is there competition? How do we decide that who we partner with, or is there just like one game in town?
To answer your question, Commissioner, annually, about January 6th of every year, my division offers an application round for grant funding. We include any state funding that we may have. We include our federal funds. And that application round, it is open to the public. It's a two-part process. So the first part of the process is you have to put your project in our system. We evaluate your project for eligibility and if it meets with the terms of the grant funding. And then we have you come back, do a full application. Then there is a review and ranking committee that is made up of community members that is approved by your county manager. That review and ranking committee hears all the projects, reviews all the applications. They rank them in order. They decide, what funding source is best for which project, at which point then the county manager says, yes, those look good. Go ahead and do your pre-award process. We do that, and then all those agreements come back to you as a board for ultimate approval.
So it's well thought out and well planned.
Yes, sir. And it happens every year, same time, January.
Mr. Miller, how many public comments do we have?
We have 7 registered speakers on this item, Mr. Chairman.
Let's go to public comment.
I would like to ask the commenters to queue up at both podiums. Andrea Werder will be followed by Richard Schroeder, excuse me. Either one, ma'am.
Hi, everybody. I'm a homeschool government teacher, and I'd have to say these last 3 years, you guys have really, really made me do my homework. It's really interesting to try to teach the Constitution with the kids and to try to tell them what is the essence of what government does for us. Well, we're here to do what? Pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, what happened 3 years ago, and even up till 3 years ago? That was the question my high school students had for me. How would each one of you commissioners, how would you answer that question to a high school student? Well, I know I can't ask you that right now, but I want you to ask yourselves that, please. I want you to think about what we parents suffered when our college children were coming back and being forced vaccinated because of some NGO program. Okay, everybody's passing the buck. But as a high school teacher and as a homeschool mother, I had to look my children in the eye and tell them why they had to put a face diaper on themselves, why they had to tremble in the presence of a police officer, and why their mother has to go to county commissioners' meetings and explain the difference between an NGO, government law, and how that all filters into life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, I only have 3 minutes here to speak with you all. And I'm kind of glad for that because my feelings are a little bit hurt by this. Because I feel like games are being played. When I had to say, what is an NGO? I understand that there are some good NGOs. Of course there are. But there's plenty of non-good, what did I have to say? NGOs, no good organization. Okay, so how do you know the difference between the two? Because there are good and there are bad. Well, you guys are here to figure out that difference. And you guys get to listen to the professionals. As a high school, homeschool mom, I didn't get to do that. I had to go out and ferret and figure out who was good, who was on our team, who was for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I think we're all getting to know our answers. But the good news is, we're all still breathing, okay? When you know better, you do better. And what does it take for a country to fall? For a few good men to do nothing. Thank you all very much.
Your next speaker is Dr. Richard Schroeder. He'll be followed by Beth Sherman.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Richard Schroeder, retired physician, speaking to the Partners in Health Community Health Workers Block Grant. As noted in the Naples Daily News, Partners in Health creates strong partnerships. This implies a partnership with their generous supporters, which include George Soros Open Society Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Pfizer, Gilead, and GlaxoSmithKline, among others. It is evident from the news article that the primary interest of Partners in Health, HCN, was getting as much mRNA technology beneath the skin as possible. This undoubtedly stems from their financial heritage of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the primary driver behind the multipurpose bioweapon development, also known as the mRNA COVID-19 vaccine. The intent behind the mRNA technology was recently brought to light by biomedical and med-legal researcher Karen Kingston, whom I believe you all know and have heard before, who found that Pfizer made a decision in 2016 to create diseases using mRNA technology, then to develop and use and market gene editing technology to treat these diseases. So the prospect that we are not going to see more mRNA technology pushed by Partners in Health via their generous sponsors would seem to be slim to none. Strong corroborating evidence comes from Dr. Jim Thorpe, a maternal fetal medicine specialist with 45 years experience and reams of data, who published an article recently that says the DoD, DARPA, BARDA, CDC, and the FDA have put together a 3-year plan and injected it with billions of dollars to promote the mRNA injections. Year 3 of that plan would be 2025. So it looks like they'll be coming back with a vengeance. I would also counter the argument and comments you're likely to hear that we will only use this money mainly for screening chronic diseases, mental health, and so forth. Screening for chronic diseases in and of itself can be a problem, especially in healthy populations where it's been shown to lead to more invasive, expensive testing, more unnecessary surgery, and of course more pharmacological intervention with its attendant side effects and inflated expenses. And I'm not even going to get into what a big pharmaceutical bonanza the mental health field has become. We're fighting a big medical industrial juggernaut here, and we need to understand what's at stake. Whether the funding is coming from the local, state, or federal government is immaterial. I advise not authorizing our tax dollars for this purpose. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Beth Sherman. She will be followed by Scott Sherman. Beth Sherman's been seated additional time from Marge Heinzel. She is here, and Mary DeVos Pritzi. Hope I'm saying that close to right. Mary, are you here? Yep. So she'll have a total of 9 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nice to see you again. I'd like to say thank you for the small victory with returning the CDC money. However, what I realize is that it is a symptom of a much larger problem. The problem is that our county took $74.8 million of federal funding from the American Rescue Plan, which was in partnership with the CARES Act and the U.S. Federal Treasury Department. The government then laid out exactly where you could spend it. They even put into convenient categories like mental health, PPE, public health, and much more. Sounds great, right? Many people may not see an issue with this. I, for one, do. We can no longer continue to take federal and state grant money without looking at the long-term and contractual obligations to them, or whom they require you to partner with. From browsing through the American Rescue Plan that you signed onto in 2021, which is where the original migrant farm worker grant came from, listed on page 19, I find some troubling connections I would like to point out. We took a federal grant and allocated it out to federally approved subcontractors. 2 out of 5 of those are local government agencies, and 3 out of 5 are NGOs. So basically, we took in federal money, gave it to federally approved subcontractors that are non-governmental agencies. Does that seem like flawed logic to anyone? Because it does to me. The definition of an NGO is a group that functions independently of any government and is usually nonprofit. If they function independently from government, then why are they funded by tax dollars? Now, I'm not an expert, but it sure looks like the federal government's goals are being implemented at a local level through non-governmental organizations. That's top-down control, which always leads to dictatorship. You are working with NGOs and a health department who got it so wrong during COVID. They are working under guidelines of the CDC and NIH. We have showed you already how wrong these three-letter organizations were during COVID. So why are we still working with them and using NGOs who follow their direction? Why do you trust their judgment on anything moving forward? In this document, there's a hyperlink that goes to the NIH where it states that they are aligned with the UN 2030 sustainability goals. Besides the federal government, these NGOs are taking funding from globalist groups that don't have the welfare of the American people or this county in mind, such as the Clinton Foundation, Open Societies, Big Pharma, and many more. The Collier County Community Health Coalition partners were all responsible for driving up the case numbers in Immokalee in exchange for a positive COVID test. Under the guise of paying their rent, they got cash for a positive COVID test. That includes Healthcare Network. That's where this grant money was used, to drive panic and fear into this community. So why should we give this NGO a grant to fund the salaries of their employees? They are a non-governmental agency. I believe that means local government should not be funding them. They have operated in the county for 40 years without assistance of local government, so why should we pay their salaries now? In fact, why should we pay the salaries of any organization other than local county employees? Why else do I think funding Healthcare Network through a mental health grant is a bad idea? Well, Healthcare Network has a new mental health facility at Nichols Community Health Center. They state at the bottom of this website that it is a, quote, health center program grantee under 42 USC 254B and deemed public health service employee under 42 USC 233 G through Q. Its employees, qualified contractors, and volunteer health professionals are deemed to be public health service employees under 42 USC 233 G through Q. The legal liability of the health center and staff is limited pursuant to the Public Health Service Act. Well, the Public Health Service Act is a federal law that was enacted in 1944. The act established the federal government's quarantine authority for the first time and gave the U.S. Public Health Service responsibility for preventing the introduction, transmission, and spread of communicable diseases from foreign countries into the U.S. This NGO, which I'm not even sure how they can call themselves an NGO, non-governmental without a chuckle, since their new mental health facility states that they are a public health service employee, is wanting us to fund their efforts through a grant that, if deemed necessary, will lead to quarantine authority. That's messed up. It really is. If we truly want to do good for this community and help the migrants in need, then I would suggest making tailored programs run by the county to do such a thing. However, since we took the federal COVID grant, it appears we are just checking off boxes to fulfill our commitments to the contract. If we want to see positive change in this county and this nation, we need to stop doing things because it's what we've always done, and strive to do the best for the people, not the institutions. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Scott Sherman. He'll be followed by Kathy Maines. Mr. Sherman's been seated additional time from Milton. And Milton, I can't really read this last name. If you'll just raise your hand if you're here, Milton. Oh, I see him. Thank you. So he'll have a total of 6 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for listening to me today. My name is Scott Sherman, for the record, and I come to you today as a father of someone who needed mental health services here in Collier County. And I'm here today to discuss the evidence-based medicine from both of these perspectives, because this document, the rescue plan, says we go by as a county evidence-based medicine. When my youngest daughter was 12, her mother died. Her situation was exacerbated by her diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome, a less severe form of autism. She moved to Florida with me, and over the next 5 years, we spent thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours in mental health therapy. My least favorite experience was actually with the David Lawrence Center, which our county funds. The reason I had a problem with them was their primary solution is to put their patients on antidepressants. So when we read that we're distributing all this money, it's $29.6 million for the healthcare side, on evidence-based medicine, I feel a need to point out the following peer-reviewed evidence. The Institute for Quality and Efficacy in Healthcare out of Cologne, Germany, published in 2006 and updated it in 2020, their conclusion was that antidepressants helped improve symptoms in 20 out of 100 people. Psychosome published in July 9th of 2010, a meta-analysis of the largest antidepressant effectiveness trial ever conducted. The FDA trials suggest that antidepressants are only marginally efficacious compared to placebos. So at best, it appears that antidepressants in the meta-analysis are about 25% effective at 2 years. So let me tell you about that. We're going to do a tire analogy in this. You go to the best tire shop in town, and he says, you're going to love these expensive tires I'm going to sell you because one of them will still be working in 2 years. And you're going to even give $1,000 to that guy? I'm not. That's just $29 million. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's look at COVID evidence. Did you know that the study cited by our school board to justify masking of our children was actually a white paper released by NCH? Its evidence showed that with full PPE, their staff exhibited a 1% improvement of viral transmission wearing goggles, gloves, masks, and gowns. So according to our Collier County 2021 performance report, we are giving them $2 million for distribution of PPE that has a lower efficacy than antidepressants. So to continue with my tire analogy, you're happy that only one is still going to be working in 2 years. He says, oh, but I'm going to sell you a cloth that you can put on every day, a new cloth every day, and I'm going to generate a lot of pollution and a lot of extra time and effort on your part, and you might get a 1% improvement in your tire performance. So this is what we're talking about. These are the kind of evidence-based medicines that we're doing here. So in conclusion, all the solutions offered during COVID by our leading healthcare organizations that we're funding, including Healthcare Network, resulted in stricter controls on our population and record profits for pharmaceutical companies. So we'd like to move this county in a direction to stop taking money from these global entities and from the federal government. These are our tax dollars. I mean, the lady said that it's not funded by our local county ad valorem, but if you're getting it from federal government, remember that's our tax dollars too. So we're using tax dollars, and we'd rather have local solutions to start by. So one of the things I would like to suggest is that this board request or instruct our Collier Health Department to compile and release an all-cause mortality rates for the last 6 years in total and broken out in the top 10 killers. No interpretations, just the numbers. My research indicates that during the worst pandemic we have ever experienced, no more people died on average than the previous 5 years. However, once the vaccine was rolled out, the overall mortality spiked. This means one of two things. The vax is killing people, or the vax makes you more susceptible of dying of other things. My opinion is clearly anecdotal, but correlation often points to causation. So maybe a vax injury study should be funded with some of this money. So find some local doctors who have no ties to Big Pharma and ask them to look into these numbers, please. So we can't just let the mistakes that happened during COVID be ignored by just continuing to fund the same people doing the same things. And we would like to find some local alternatives. Thank you very much.
Your final speaker on this item is Kathy Maines. Kathy Maines? And there is no one on the 5th floor, so one more time, Kathy Maines. All right, sir, that is it.
Commissioners, do you have any questions of anyone or statements at all? And Commissioner Hall, what you had said to lead this off is the same sort of feeling I had initially when I sat down with the county staff. I mean, I appreciate, I'll just open it up since everybody's, sort of here trying to think of what they want to say is, I think it's really, first of all, I wouldn't say that it was a minor victory on the CDC. So when this room was packed and we sat here for hours, once you sort of get the outcome you want, I guess it's easy to kind of downsize it. But I think you would have called it a minor loss had we all not have been in an agreement with that. So I don't want to discount the efforts that we did up here to dissect the 10 different angles of the CDC money, but that decision's already been made and come and gone, and I stand by my vote, and I think my colleagues do as well. One thing that I just say as an opening statement is, having heard everybody very clearly, it's quite dangerous to just say when we accept federal money, there's a whole bunch of negatives. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of people in Collier County whose lives were basically, I say lives, but lifestyles were saved during COVID and during hurricanes from federal money that we got from FEMA, federal money that we got to pay their rent for 2 years, federal money that they got to augment their lost jobs. So, let's not lump everything. If you marched all those people in here and they did march in here saying, why weren't we giving out more money? So, you can't say what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander kind of thing, but also too, the peanut butter spread, we take everything on face value. So there are plenty of people screaming in here saying, where's the federal dollars? Where's the FEMA trailers? Where's the money to help us with our rent during COVID? And that seemed all okay to everyone. In fact, we were all getting chastised that we weren't handing out the money fast enough. And then we found out during an audit that this was one of the few counties that actually did it correctly, where some others are still in litigation for being Santa Claus and not actually filling out the forms properly. So I thank Ms. Sontag for standing by her guns and making sure that we followed the state and federal guidelines. But having said that, I don't know if my colleagues here feel like we need to do a deeper dive on this. I mean, I have some concerns just making sort of a rubber stamp and saying, oh my God, more federal money. We definitely don't want to do that, because there's a million negative things with it, and then we turn our back on something that actually helps in a lot of other areas that aren't COVID, aren't face diapers, aren't all these other things. So I want to make sure that we've done our homework as well, and I know that I've spent a lot of time speaking with the various agencies and with our county staff on this, just like I know we all did for hurricane relief, for rent relief and housing assistance, and all those had a federal stamp on it as well. And in the words of our county attorney, if strings are attached, we can always address that when the time comes. And I'm not saying that's our fallback position, but anyway, those are just some opening comments. I don't have a predetermined vote or anything right now, because I do value the opinions of not only the citizens but my colleagues. So I'll go to Commissioner McDaniel, and then Commissioner Saunders, you're on deck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We all lived through some really tough times, and with the virus and the medical data that Doc, you and I talked about on a regular basis with regard to the manipulation of the data sets and the information that was put out by the CDC, and who was actually passing away and what they were passing away from. At the end of the day, money is fungible. I had an enormous amount of experience with the healthcare network for the care of the folks in Immokalee. I didn't agree, as virtually everyone knows, I didn't agree with the mandates and the things that were put out by those agencies, if you will. But I watched what the healthcare network did for the community of Immokalee. The greater good ultimately was served. I saw no forcing of vaccines. I saw no forcing of wearing masks. We went through some of the processes and procedures, and again, medical directors, the executive director of the organization, at that particular time was taking information that she in fact thought was best. She's now moved on. There's another executive director of that organization. And just to share a little story, when I was over meeting with him last fall, there was a lady that came into the Nichols Center, heavy with child, when she was about to bear a child, literally. She was standing in the waiting room trying to get an audience with somebody, and I went on through, got a tour of the mental health facility and so on and so forth, and when I came back down, that lady was in one of Collier County ambulances underneath the vestibule out front giving birth to that child. So, all that notwithstanding, you know, you can draw a lot of correlations, a lot of potential circumstances that can come from taking grant money, utilizing grant money. But I sincerely believe that what you said, Mr. Chair, can be, should be, and will be a fallback if necessary, not necessarily a fallback, but the lead. And that is, you know, we're not going to react to those type of mandates and edicts and directives that come from these agencies. I mean, Commissioner Hall, you led the charge on the return of those initial grant monies, and we even sealed that deal by putting back the money that was already taken in advance to this organization. And I personally am not fearful of utilization of this money to support that community.
Commissioner Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was actually going to ask Commissioner McDaniel a couple questions about the use of those funds and the benefit to the folks basically in District 5. It's mostly Immokalee, and I think Everglades City perhaps there's some, but mostly Immokalee. The issue we dealt with several months ago was the mandates from the CDC and the fact that we did not want to be subject to those mandates. We've eliminated all that by canceling that grant. And I think the sense of the board was that this medical program in the Immokalee community was very important to those folks that are receiving those services, and that we unanimously wanted to proceed with a way to fund those. And I'm not persuaded by what I've heard today that we are doing something that would be inappropriate in the use of grant funds for this project. I think the project is beneficial, as articulated by Commissioner McDaniel, and as agreed upon by all 5 of us several months ago. So I don't have any problem in moving forward with this.
Okay, I don't see anybody else lit up. Do I have a motion to pass this recommendation?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Mr.
Got a
Chairman.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Can I make a comment, Commissioner?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Light up.
I never did light up, but
That's all right.
I just had a thought. I appreciate the comments, and I appreciate the concern. And what I would like to see going forward is as much research that is done from the public to backtrack and to assume what we're doing is not correct. I would like to see the research go forward and bring viable solutions and opportunities for us to act on what you think is better. We represent you. And as far as this decision, I think it's a good decision. Mental health is a big deal. Substance abuse is a bigger deal. And if we can take a small amount of money and fund good, solid workers that are out there trying to make a living, they're not the ones with the conspiracy. They're not the ones in cahoots with whoever the evil parts are. They're out there, and we're funding their job so that they can go do services in our community. So I would just like to see that going forward, for the research to be what we can do to make that better. Or get with Human Services in January, when the new process starts over, we found these people who we feel would be really reliable and better suited to meet the needs of our community. So I just wanted to say that going forward.
Commissioner Cowell.
Great idea.
Thank you, Chairman. I look at this philosophically. I mean, we look back, and I had the opportunity to actually sit down with the new director, because I believe he wasn't director when all the CDC and all that stuff came about. He came in after the fact. And I actually had the opportunity to sit down with him, James, I believe his name was, a few weeks ago, and we just had a good talk. I mean, he's a U.S. Army veteran, retired, airborne. You know, he did a lot of service to our country. He's very decorated. Came out as an officer out of the U.S. Army, and we talked about real life cases where his community health workers were out in the field, and talked about a few cases where they actually intervened, where they saved some lives. So the question I ask a lot of people to do a lot of research and do the old, 6 degrees of a Kevin Bacon, if you ever heard that. I can connect any person in this room to somebody you don't like or dislike in some way if I research deep enough. And so my question is, what is the price of a human life? Can anybody put a number on that? Human life is different between me and you, right? Because a loved one would be more to you than maybe to me. It would be priceless. So when we look at these, sometimes we have to look at the greater good and not so much the George Soroses and the Gates. Because you think once a human life is saved by this organization, George Soros gets angry because his money was used to do that? Does he pull his money back? We have to look at this with open eyes sometimes. And when you're on a crusade, pick your battles. Pick your battles. Because it diminishes your work on the crusade sometimes. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Hey, County Manager, what I'm going to propose so that we can have a nice fresh start with the Haven, I know it's no sooner than 10, it's 10:26. Let's come back at 10:35, just so people can use the let's say 10:40. There's a lot of people here. People want to use the restroom. People want to get a drink of water. There's not a lot of availability out there. So we're going to say 10:40, so then we can come back refreshed and really jump into that one.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll resume at 10:40.
Chair, you have a live mic.
Yeah, just remind everybody to please put their cell phones on silent. Got a lot of material to cover. I'd like to have it a little quiet in here so we can hear. We don't have to hear your song of the day. Okay, County Manager, we're going to roll into 9B, obviously, right?
We're going to hear our time certain item of 9A
Or 9A,
and
I'm
9B, which are companion items. And these, I'm going to read these two into the record for you. This 9A is a recommendation to approve and transmit to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity a small-scale growth management plan amendment ordinance, creating the Airport Carlisle mixed-use subdistrict to allow the Carlisle Assisted Living Facility, group care, care units, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and continuing care retirement communities with a maximum of 0.65 floor area ratio and up to 336 multifamily dwelling units, of which 76 will be rent restricted as affordable on 27.78 plus or minus acres located southwest of the intersection of Orange Blossom Drive and Airport Road in Section 2, Township 49 South, Range 25 East, Collier County, Florida. Its companion item 9B. This item does require that ex parte disclosure be provided by the commissioners, which we'll do next. And this is a recommendation to approve a rezoning ordinance for the Haven at North Naples MPUD to allow the Carlisle Assisted Living Facility, group care, care units, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and continuing care retirement communities with a maximum 0.65 floor area ratio and up to 336 multifamily dwelling units, of which 76 will be rent restricted as affordable on 27.78 plus or minus acres located southwest of the intersection of Orange Blossom Drive and Airport Road in Section 2, Township 49 South, Range 25 East, Collier County, Florida. With that, we need to do our ex parte.
I'll start with Commissioner Colwell on 9A and/or 9B. Do you have any disclosures?
Yes, I do. I have meetings, emails, and calls.
Okay. Commissioner Saunders.
Mr. Chairman, I do have, I had meetings, correspondence, and telephone calls as well.
Okay. Commissioner Hall.
I've got it all. Meetings, correspondence, emails, calls,
Important.
letters, everything.
Commissioner McDaniel.
And I as well have had meetings, emails, and calls.
Okay, and I have meetings, correspondence, and emails. Okay,
No, we need to do the swearing in for the testimony.
okay. As I would remind the crowd, we've had some really maybe controversial discussions in here, but big groups before. We've had some very difficult, votes, but they're always professional and mature. So I would just tell you, as I've told the other groups before, we don't want to turn this into a clown show. This is important. This affects our community, regardless of how we vote. So, cheering and hooting and hollering and all that, that's how they did it on the Jerry Springer show. That's not what we do here. We have professional discussion. We want to hear from both sides. We want to be respectful from both sides. So when you're at the podium, if you wanted the other side to boo you or heckle you or scream or clap or whatever, you may or may not want that. That's not what we do here. So, and also too, when the red light goes off, we're not here to cut you off. Don't want you to continue to make an 11-minute speech, but monitor the lights. And as the lights go on, it's a reminder to you to start to wrap it up. Nobody's here to bang the gavel and cut you off. We want to hear from everyone so that we get as much information as possible before we vote. So we're all in this together. Shut off your phones. Let's be respectful to everybody, and let's have a good, healthy discussion here, because there's a lot of moving parts. Having said that, I guess, Mr. Jovanovic, you probably are going to open this up, I would expect, correct?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record, Rich Jovanovic on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is Johnson Development Associates. I have several people with me here today who can answer any questions regarding the project. Carrie Ann Wilson is with Johnson Development. She's heading up this project from a development standpoint. Johnson Development is not new to Collier County. This will be their third project in Collier County if it is approved. The first project was approved at the corner of Livingston and Radio Road. In the Briarwood development, it's known as Lago. The second project that was approved is right across the street, the redevelopment of the shopping center, Courthouse Shadows, and that's Mariah. So this would be the third project in Collier County for Johnson Development. Brett Boyd has worked with us on a few projects. Briarwood was the first one, and this is the second one, helping us with Johnson Development and coordinating for them. Bob Mulhare is the professional planner on the project. I'm the land use attorney on the project. Norm Trebilcock is our transportation consultant. Tim Hall is our environmental consultant. Jeremy Chastain is a planner with Hol Montes who worked on this, and Terry Cole is will be addressing any engineering-related questions that you may have regarding the project. I'm going to do a brief overview of the project. I'm also going to take you through how we arrived at this 22.6% affordable housing commitment. That there's math behind it and how we got to that. I'm not sure everybody in the audience knows that, and some of the commissioners weren't around when we made the original presentation. And then Bob will take over and give it into a little bit more detailed presentation of compatibility with the surrounding community. The property is 27.8 acres. It's outlined in red on this site. It's at the intersection of Orange Blossom and Airport. Around this property is a significant amount of non-residential development. This is the county complex up here with the library and the county offices. Across the street is the Greek church. The Greek church owns this piece of property, but that property was originally designated commercial under your comprehensive plan. To the southeast, this is also designated commercial under your comprehensive plan, and it is zoned for commercial uses as well. Further to the south, right in here, and near the project is an industrial park. So our project is fronting airport. It will access airport, and it is aligned with uses that are being or exist on airport, and Bob will take you through that in a little bit greater detail. As the county manager pointed out, we have two requests before you. One is a small scale growth management plan amendment. The purpose of that amendment is to implement income restricted housing on this property because, quite candidly, your existing land development code matrix doesn't work for bringing affordable housing forward to Collier County. You've recently transmitted some growth management plan amendments that would allow for up to 25 units per acre through some yet to be determined formula. Our request, frankly, is consistent with what you've transmitted but not yet adopted. So we have both a growth management plan amendment and a PUD to allow for 336 units, of which 76 of those units will have income restrictions. 38 of those units will be income restricted to the 100% and below AMI, and 38 of those units will be at the 80% and below AMI income restricted categories as part of this project. What it will also do is the Carlisle's been around for a while. The Carlisle was approved before the growth management plan, before the land development code limited the FAR to a 0.45. The Carlisle is greater than 0.45, so what this will do is we'll actually make the Carlisle a legal use instead of now a legal non-conforming use. So it allows, God forbid, the Carlisle, if it burns down, to be rebuilt in its current configuration. There's been discussion about what's the real density for this proposed project. Your land development code says you look at the entire site. The entire site's almost 27.8 acres. That would be a density of 12.1 units per acre. If you just took the tract on which we're proposing the development, that's 14.57 acres. That would be 23.06 units per acre. All of this is in the staff report, so people know exactly how the density is being calculated. And if you want to take out the parking lot that we're building on our piece to serve the Carlisle, that would bring down our development down to 13.29 acres, which put us at 25.28 units per acre, consistent with what's been recently transmitted to the state for review. We had the required NIM. We had a follow-up meeting with the leadership of that area, including properties across the street from us, as well as properties on Orange Blossom. We listened to comments that we received. The comments, and Bob will go through this, were primarily related to density and height. We made some adjustments to those, and also traffic was a major issue. We initially had an emergency access for our part of the project out onto Orange Blossom. We removed that, so there is no interconnection of this project through the Carlisle that will result on any traffic from our project having direct access to Orange Blossom. Our emergency access is now through Bear Creek, which is, I should go back, Bear Creek, which is this apartment complex right here. Bob will show you we have an emergency access through there. We also added a second access onto airport and relocated that to address concerns that were raised during the public outreach meetings we had. As I said in front of the Planning Commission, and I think it's clear, we are at a very crucial point for housing in Collier County. Every one of you have mentioned the need to provide more income-restricted housing. Everybody on the Planning Commission has expressed that need as well, and the community has expressed that need as well. This is one of a few projects that I'm working on that have these, we'll call them project-specific growth management plan requests and project-specific affordable housing commitments. And Troy, I'm going to switch over to the visualizer real quickly. A couple years ago, before interest rates started rising, we had a couple, Bob and I were working on some projects on on Collier Boulevard. And as we were going, small-scale growth management plan amendment along with the PUD, and county staff was trying to get us to reach a 30% income-restricted threshold for the units. We pushed back and we said, we can't afford it. The numbers don't work. We've got to have a project that's economically viable in order to move forward. And staff said, then, show us the math, because we're not going to just take your word that you can't. We wanted a 20% commitment, and we wanted higher income thresholds. So what we presented at that time is consistent with what I'm going to present now, and this is for this specific project that's before you today. Is this working? Yeah. It started with what are the market rate rents currently in the community. And what you can see, these are projects that are up and running and are being rented. Sure. Can I? No. Do you know how to? We good? Okay. So what we've done is we've looked at what are the current average market rate rents for 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartments in Collier County. And as you can see, the average 1-bedroom rents for a little over $2,400. The average 2-bedroom rents for a little over $3,100, and the average 3-bedroom rents for a little over $3,800. That's what the rents are out there. I think everybody agrees those rents are not affordable for a lot of the workforce in Collier County, especially nurses, teachers, firefighters, and other professionals that we need to have our community continue to have the level of service we have today, and just the overall enjoyment of our lifestyle by having people live in our community. There was So what does this mean when a particular project comes through and they have to restrict the rents based upon the guidelines on the 80% and the 100% income restricted? So what is the actual reduction from the overall market rate? Now, we initially included the 120% category, which clearly everybody said we do not want any of the income restricted to be at the 120% category. But even at those categories, there's an offset. There's a loss in potential revenue. So at the 100% category, you can see what happens as far as the reduction in monies that come into the project for the project to operate. And it becomes very significant on a monthly basis, and even more significant when you commit to it for a 30-year commitment, which is ours is a 30-year commitment. And it doesn't have any language in there that would allow, if we can't lease the unit, we can put it at a market rate. We're committed to these units being available and rented to people in these categories until they're full. They will stay vacant until they're full. So there's no incentive not to rent these units. There's every incentive to rent the units, even though it's with reduced rents that will come in overall on the project. All of this is relevant because when you go to the bank to try to get financing for your project, you have to show the bank that you have the potential, if all goes as expected, to hit a rate of return based upon the amount of money you're going to put in the project at 5.5%. And initially on those other projects, and like with this project, if we had no restrictions on the units, we would get a return of 6.1% if everything went as expected. However, with the rent restrictions that we're required to do, we have our net income from the project minus the revenue that we're not going to get because we have to reduce the rents. We get a certain amount of income per year that we need to get to 5.5% in order to get the financing. And as you can see, in this table we have both the county and revised because we've agreed to the 22.6%, so those numbers are the same. There's almost $1 million a year in foregone market rate revenue for this project, and that brings the return down to 5.3%. Now, this is one of a couple of projects that I've got that started this process before interest rates went up. They've got the ability to continue to go forward even though they're not going to get to that 5.5% return. But when you look at the lost revenue over 30 years, you're talking about almost $30 million in lost revenue to help provide housing, not only market rate housing, but income restricted housing. So it's a significant commitment by a developer to move forward with this project and achieve the financing that they would need in order to move forward. Can I go back, Troy? That they would need to go forward with the project. So this developer and a few other developers that are going through the process right now, and a few that came before them, have come up with a formula based upon a review by county staff, a review by the planning commissioner, and a review by prior board members as to what is an appropriate percentage in return for going forward with the project. This project, as a base density, if it was on its own, it'd be 15 acres. It would, under the growth management plan, can get 4 units per acre base, another 3 units per acre as a bonus because it's less than, it's an infill parcel that would, so 7 units per acre on 15 acres is 105. So out of the 231 additional units that we're requesting through this growth management plan amendment, 76% of those additional units are being income restricted, which I think is somewhere around 40% of the additional units are being income restricted through this project. Bob will take you through in greater detail how you get in and out of this project, how this project is compatible with what's around us, And it's the commission has asked and the community has asked for the private sector to play a role in addressing this affordable housing issue. This developer is going to play a role. They're going to develop a Class A project, similar to what they've already done in the community. All of the units will be the same. You will not know one unit from another unit as far as the fit and finishes in the units. You won't know who has an income restricted unit and who won't have an income restricted unit. There is a commitment to annually verify with the county staff that we've met that commitment. We've also have a commitment that with just a little bit of notice, come in and look at our books at any time to verify that we've met that commitment. There have been concerns raised about whether or not the development community that's been getting these income restricted units as part of their project are in fact living up to those commitments. Really the first one that made this commitment that is actually out of the ground and been leased up is Allura, and that's up on Livingston Road. It was approved with an income restriction number of units. It's been audited. It's living up to what it's going to do. Every developer I have who's gotten a project approved that's coming out of the ground, and hopefully others that will come out of the ground, know what that commitment is. They're willing to meet that commitment, and there will be no doubt that we'll meet that commitment because you will be able to review and verify that commitment as part of the annual PUD monitoring process. So with that, that's a general overview of what we're proposing to do, how we got here, how the affordable housing commitment came about, and I'm going to turn it over to Bob, unless you have questions of me, to take us through a little bit greater detail.
Let's go. Keep going.
I think Commissioner Hall just...
Oh, I'm sorry. Just let up. Go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
Mr. Ivanovich, I have one question for you. Have y'all, the question was posed to me about what is the mix, the 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom of the affordable units, and I didn't know what that answer was.
And I'll tell you what that answer is. We want the market to tell us, because there's a lot of demand for 1s, there's a lot of demands for 2s, and there's demands for 3s. And what we thought was if we could be flexible to make sure we got those units leased up and in there, it was better than having to commit to a specific number, and maybe that's not the right market mix.
Gotcha.
Anything else? Mr. Mulher?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Could I ask Mr. Yovanovich a quick question? In reference to the new legislation, the Live Local Act that the legislature has approved and the governor has signed, if this board did nothing, what would be, under that legislation, what would you be able to do? Have you looked at that legislation?
I have. It'd be 7 units an acre.
It would be how many?
7.
7
7
per
units an acre, yeah. We're not commercially zoned, and the Live Local only allows for, I guess I'd have to come to you, and I'd still have to ask for more through a process, but I'm assuming the question is by right. What can I do?
Exactly.
By right, I could do 1 unit per 5 acres because I'm zoned ag. But your growth management plan today currently provides for 4 as a base and 3 as a bonus because we're less than 20 acres.
And that's the same that you would be able to get on the Live Local?
Under Live Local, that's all I would get.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning. For the record, Bob Mulher. I'm a certified planner with Hull Montez, a Bowman company. So what you have on the visualizer before you is an excerpt from your growth management plan and shows the subject site, which is right here. We're in the urban area. It's an urban infill parcel. This is the zoning map. Historically, going back to probably the time that and before the growth management plan was first adopted in 1989, a great deal of land within the urban area was zoned ag. And of course, that becomes then a holding zoning. It's anticipated and promoted through your growth management plan, future land use element, that those uses that zoning is going to change to a zoning that is consistent with the growth management plan. So yes, you have ag zoning here. You actually have another piece here. And it, of course, is anticipated that that zoning is going to change over time. This is the master plan. And just to point out a few things, there is an existing right turn out onto Orange Blossom for the Carlisle, which is right here. And that will remain. We have designed the site so that none of the multifamily residential will be able to go through the Carlisle to access that. That was done in response to comments that we heard from nearby residents that they didn't really want this traffic significantly impacting Orange Blossom. So our entry, main entry, is shared with the Carlisle. And then we have a right turn only here, a little bit further south. And then there is an emergency-only access, which uses an existing ingress-egress easement into the Bear Creek multifamily project to the south. This is a colorized rendering depicting the proposed multifamily project. Here you have the existing Carlisle up here. As Rich said, that is a legal non-conforming use at this point in time. It was approved as a conditional use quite a few years ago prior to the county adopting a floor area ratio standard. And so this will apply the floor area ratio to the Carlisle and make it a conforming use. Also, there was mention of there is presently the Carlisle uses a portion of the Italian American Club property right there. You can see some of the parking right there for parking to meet their parking needs. As part of this process, we will be developing parking for the Carlisle. So folks that want to enter into the Carlisle will come through this way, and then folks that will be reaching the multifamily will come through this way. So in terms of landscape buffers, north, adjacent to Orange Blossom, there's 20-foot type D, and adjacent to the ag property, because that is, let me just go back to that real quick. As I mentioned, this parcel up here is zoned ag. That is obviously going to change and most likely will develop as a commercial property. So we have a 10-foot buffer here. And then, of course, when this property develops, they'll have their own buffer adjacent to ours. To the south, we also have a 10-foot buffer, and to the south is, as I mentioned, is the Bear Creek, which is a multifamily project right along here. To the east, adjacent to Airport Pulling Road, we have a Type D buffer required by your code, 20-foot wide along Airport Road, and then adjacent to the CPUD, we'll have the 10-foot Type A. And to the west, we have, within Track B, the multifamily tract, we have a 15-foot enhanced Type B buffer, which includes a wall. This is a graphic depicting that buffer from the perspective of our neighbors. This is a rendering of the proposed multifamily project from looking in from Airport Road. And a little closer up perspective of the project. I wanted to point out here that we have some dimensions on here that show the distance of the proposed multifamily to our neighbors here. These are one-story parking structures, so they're like 10-foot tall, thereabouts. These neighbors over here have provided us with letters of no objection. We are 279 feet from this structure and 185 feet from the closest point of this structure on this single-family lot. And over here, you get the closest structure to the northwest is 361 feet to the edge of our building. They're actually closer to the existing Carlisle. This is a Collier County stormwater facility. And so you can see we've designed the site to create separation, particularly from where the multi-story multifamily is. And that's important because that's sort of consistent with the county's definition of compatibility, and you can mitigate and should mitigate. There are many examples of multifamily being in close proximity to single family throughout the county, including high-rise buildings. This is just a view perspective from our neighbors, looking over the proposed enhanced buffer and wall here. And as you can see, they will be seeing a little bit of the higher end of the buildings. So as I mentioned, we're requesting a 0.65 floor area ratio for the existing Carlisle facility, which will make it legal and conforming. And then 336 multifamily units. Rich already went over how that density is calculated. He also went over the number of multifamily units, particularly 38 units at 100% or below and 38 units at 80% or below. There's other projects that have been approved already, not even considering the fact that the county has already submitted some changes to allow for 25 units per acre. The Lord's Way, 25 units per acre. Blue Coral, 25 units per acre. Briarwood, which was developed by Johnson Development, 22.7 units per acre. Lely Resort has a 20.4, and the Randall Curve has 400 units out on 19.5 acres at 20.5 units per acre. Rich went over the fact that we had a NIM. I think you're probably all aware of the issues that were raised. Traffic was a significant issue. And we did make some changes in response to this, which I previously mentioned. Building height, we had started with a building height of 5 stories. We've reduced it to 4. We also met, as Rich indicated, with the leadership at the Monterey Clubhouse, presented the changes that we'd made after the NIM. I think they were appreciated. Probably didn't go far enough for some people's perspective, and we understand that, but we did at least present those changes to them. Again, that's a summary of the changes we made, which I've kind of already mentioned to you. In particular, even on the east side of Airport, there was some concerns where we had our secondary right out only, that it would conflict with folks leaving, and I always forget the name of this development. See if I can just get there, I'm sorry. Need to get to the aerial. Lone Oak, so that's right here. They only have one way in and out. We originally had our secondary right turn only right about here, which potentially, if folks did want to make a U-turn, they would conflict. We moved it further south so that folks have to travel further to the south before they make a U-turning movement. It's our position that if you're heading southbound on Airport, there's a Publix down there. If you want to head northbound, that would be relatively few trips. And of course, Norm can speak to the particulars of that. I'll just summarize the traffic. Again, if you have specific questions, we do have Norm Trebelcock here. But the total PM peak hour trips would be 343 PM peak hour trips. And as the Board of County Commissioners has now for some time required, we have a PM peak hour cap in the PUD. I don't know of any way to make it larger on a PowerPoint presentation. We won't have any access to Yarbury Lane. That's the single-family road off of Orange Blossom. Many people asked about that. As I mentioned, there's only an egress to Orange Blossom strictly for the Carlisle. We don't have any access to Orange Blossom directly from the multifamily tract. We're designing the secondary access right out to onto Airport so that there's a median, and so that forces people to travel further south, so there's no conflict with U-turning movements. We do have that emergency access only to Bear Creek. This kind of shows you those access points. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and we do have others here that can assist.
Okay. I do have some. Just for clarity, Mr. Miller, how many public comments do we have, just so we've got an idea of what
36.
36? Yes. Okay. I want to hold my comments until I hear from the public, but if we have any of my colleagues that want to ask now, Commissioner Saunders?
Mr. Mulhare, that last display you had up there, Okay, I want to make sure that that said right out only for the existing Carlisle only. I
Yes.
just saw the right out only on Orange Blossom, and that was a bit of concern, but that is only for the Carlisle.
Correct. There's no connection from the multifamily tract B.
Thank you.
I'll ask one question before we roll into the public comment. It's probably for Mr. Jovanovic. Give me a little deeper dive into the two NIMs, the dates that you had them, turnout, feedback, anything you can tell me. I mean, I'm always encouraging, citizens that have a very opinionated view of something that, the NIMs are your time to hear from the developer before you come in here and we hear from you. And I know a little bit about that you had two, but in the public forum and with a deeper dive, tell me when those were and, as much as you can contribute.
Sure. They were both basically during season when people were here. The first one was at the library, on Orange Blossom. It was full.
It was in person.
It was in person and Zoom, but it was full in person.
Okay.
A lot of public participation as to what their concerns were: height, density, and traffic was the recurring theme. Then we had a follow-up meeting. We thought it would be better to have a smaller group on the follow-up meeting.
What was the time in between?
The first meeting was September 26th. The second meeting was February 7th.
Oh, wow.
So it was, we went, met with our client and said, what revisions can we make to the project and have it still be a project that, was viable. That's when we were able to bring the height down from 5 stories to 4 stories.
So when you say smaller group, was it leadership?
It was the leadership of the I'm sure that Dave Renner will come up there and tell you everybody who was there, but there's I'll call it a consortium of the presidents of the different associations is my wording for that group. So we met with that group, explained the changes we made regarding height, regarding access, presented those as Bob mentioned. It didn't really move the needle with the group because they want us to be at 3 stories. We explained we can't be at 3 stories. They want us to reduce the density. We explained why we couldn't reduce the density and still have a project that made economic sense. And at the end of the day, we did the best we could to address their concerns, but we obviously didn't get all the way there because they came to the Planning Commission and voiced their objections, and they'll voice them again, I'm sure, to you all. But we did try to follow up, and we made changes. We made changes based upon what we heard, and we thought, frankly, they were significant changes because I don't think you're going to find a professional planner who's going to get up there and say a 4-story building is incompatible with a 3-story building. Maybe a 5-story building is incompatible with a 3, but we did make those changes. We have, as Bob pointed out, we have a 130-foot setback from our western boundary. We changed the access, made sure there was no access. So we did our best to make changes to the project, and we didn't get there.
I mean, the list that it was going to be my follow-up,
Sure.
but you kind of summarized it. But the list I had, where it sounded like the major changes you made was to the height, to the setback, and to the road access.
Yes.
Was there anything else that I missed? Or
No,
was
I
it
think
top
that
5 or?
I would say the big issue was height. Traffic, I think traffic was the main, I shouldn't say the main, but it was brought up quite a bit. There's concern about traffic on Orange Blossom. Orange Blossom has been constrained by the county commission to a 2-lane road at the request of the residents. It's going to be a 2-lane road. I can't imagine that the county commission is ever going to go back to making it a 4-lane road, which it was always planned to be a 4-lane road. But, to be fair, when you decide to restrain your road to a 2-lane road, you should anticipate more traffic on that 2-lane road than you would experience if it was the 4-lane road. So traffic is a concern for the residents. Norm Trebilcock is available to explain the amount of people that we really think will actually go south, make a U-turn, go to Orange Blossom, and go west on Orange Blossom, there will be some trips that will do that, but not
Height, how did it change the density / inventory of the number of units? Because obviously, if it was one less story, is it the same amount of units?
It is.
Almost smaller?
It's the same amount of units. We changed the unit mix to make the project work. And it's, you got to have a project that you can finance and make it work, or you end up with 7 units an acre, much less dense, and with no affordable units.
Okay. Mr. Miller, let's start with the public comment, please.
Yes, sir. We have 36 registered speakers. Quite a few speakers have been seated additional time. Your first speaker is Dave Renner, and he'll be followed by Diane Flagg. Mr. Renner's been seated additional time from 15 people. So, folks, when I call your name, please raise your hand up high so that I can see it. Jay Hoshlu? Okay. Laura Wagner? Thank you. Jeff Wagner? Thank you. Marion Hoshlu? I'm sorry I'm butchering your name. Tony Fedelman? George Chami? Thank you. William Eccles? Vivian Lugo? Well, I have a slip here for you for Dave Renner. Okay. Melinda, is it Gunther? Thank you. Linda Simpson? Thank you. Debbie Elliott? Arthur Anger? Diane Martin? Mark Simpson? And Olga Danayan? Mr. Renner will have a total of 48 minutes.
Does our camera show anybody up on the 5th floor?
There is no one on the 5th floor,
So
sir.
the commissioners know we installed the camera up on the 5th floor so Mr. Miller can monitor that in case, we forget somebody, or if there's plenty of room in here, we can invite those people to come down. So it's a nice little improvement. But all right, sir, the floor is yours.
Commissioner LaCastro and commissioners, thank you for the time. For the record, my name is Dave Renner. I'm a resident of the Villages of Monterey, which is one of the communities near where they're proposing the Haven project. My wife Ann and I have lived there 22 years. We've raised our 4 children there. We love the area, and we're here just to speak on behalf of the residents and the leadership group of the Orange Blossom Airport Road Corridor on why we are strongly recommending you deny the request for this rezoning. So I'm been the leader, I'm a part of a leadership group, and these are the 14 communities that run north and south of where this project is being proposed on Airport Road and along Orange Blossom from Goodlet Road all the way to Bridgewater Bay at Livingston Road. So we have over 4,000 households that are part of these communities. And you can see, I know you've gotten a lot of emails from people. You can see everyone here today. And they've asked me to speak on their behalf, the people who can't be here to speak, or the people that are here today that would like to, that have ceded me their time. And our group, we've selected about 6 people for our group to speak. We wanted to keep it condensed and respectful so we're not repeating ourselves to the commissioners. We've also, of our group, we did have a petition of over 3,000 residents. Save Orange Blossom Airport Road Corridor opposed the rezoning for the 60-foot high, 336-unit Haven apartment. But let me just start with what is our viewpoint as residents. And we believe there's a win-win, there's a balanced solution here. What we want is responsible growth. We are fine with something going on this property. We're fine with apartments going on this property. We're fine with affordable housing on this property. But we want something to be cohesive and consistent and compatible with the neighborhood in both height, density, and character. The residents also asked the county commissioners to follow the growth management plan as it's established today. We believe there is a need for affordable housing as well. So we applaud efforts for affordable housing, and we are fine with an affordable component on this property. Of course, the developer wants a successful and profitable project, but we believe a lower height and lower density project, still with affordable units, is much more cohesive, consistent, and compatible with the neighboring communities. And Troy, can you switch it to my other piece real quick for me?
Yeah. We got to get out a slideshow, and there you go, sir.
So I just wanted to, this is Goodlet Road right here, and this is Orange Blossom heading east towards Airport Road. So just to give you, and I'm going to go through this quickly, but this is, you have, and these are all part of our alliance, Colusa Bay, Autumn Woods, you have Monterey. I'm going to kind of speed up here. These are all the single-family home communities, just so you can see what, you have Mill Run, Stonegate, single-family homes, two-story condominiums here. You have Emerald Lakes on the left. So here we're coming up to Airport Road. So if I pause that there, or just go back a little bit. So basically, what else do we have here, other than single-family homes and low-rise condos? We have a one-story government building. We have a one-story library. The tallest building, really the only taller building here, is the Carlisle at 42 feet. You have the Italian American Center here. And as you keep going, you have the one-story church. Back here is Walden Oaks. You get a peek of this. This is Windward Isle, another single-family area. And as you keep going, so here is this is the subject property. These are the Bear Creek, again, low-rise complex, Bear Creek Apartments. Below that is the Oasis, again, low-rise apartments. So just, and Troy, if you can go back to the other one. That's just to give you a feel. That's what's existing. And the applicant's representatives talked about down the street there is a commercial area, but they're not proposing to build this down the street in that commercial area. They're proposing to build this in the center of a primarily residential area with a couple other structures that really support the residents in that area. So the Haven's asking for the 60-foot high, 336 units, 23 units per acre. Just as a reference point, this is 43% higher than the tallest neighboring building, the 42-foot Carlisle Assisted Living Facility. That is dramatically higher. And we're asking that anything built here should be at or below that 42 feet, just to be consistent and cohesive. They're all also asking for 64% higher density than the highest neighboring density complex. Just to the south, the Bear Creek Apartments is 14 units per acre. Too high, much too dense for what's there today. You've seen the property here. It's our understanding that the applicant has not purchased the 10 acres here. You have the 10 acres here, which is the agricultural land. It's understanding they're under contract to purchase it if they get the rezoning. And the other thing I just wanted to point out here, here's the Carlisle. The Carlisle is a separate owner. They're part of this PUD amendment because of the shared access, but a separate owner. They're not part of the Johnson Group, separate property, and we're asking the commissioners if you'll consider any density should be considered just on the property where the Haven is being built. And you can see most of the property is being built on the 10 acres. The entrance to the Carlisle is going to be shared. It's going to be the same exit there. And I'm going to talk a little bit about safety concerns, but there's going to be two right-only exits, one here and one here, and I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. So here is just another view of where the project, this is where the project is going to be. This is going to be the entrance. So here, across the street, so this is Windward Isles. They have a right turn only. This is Walden Oaks. They have a right turn only. This is the Carlisle, which would be combined with this project, right turn only. There's going to be another right turn only here. There's a new project I'm going to talk about shortly, the Luckert Medical Building right here. Also right turn only. And all of these, and also Bear Creek, right turn only. And all of these exits are going to be trying to shoot across 3 lanes to get to the U-turn. Whoever, half of them are going to be going south, half are going to be going north. And we live with this. It is already a disaster right there. And I'll talk a little bit more about the safety concerns as I go. We believe the Haven Apartments would be a tipping point as they're proposed by the applicant at 336 unit density and 60 feet high. And will lead to this area, because you saw there are some vacant lots there, to becoming an overbuilt, congested area, overcrowded schools at capacity, and the safety concerns. And there are other vacant parcels. But one in particular I wanted to bring up today. On June 11th, you're going to be hearing another applicant proposing. So here, right here is where they're proposing to build a Haven. Right next door, there's a new proposal for rezoning that you're going to be hearing for the Lutgert Medical Building and self-storage facility. And this is coming to you on July 11th. And what they are proposing, it's our understanding that's currently zoned for a maximum of 40,000 square feet of commercial space. They're going to be asking to double this to 75,000, or almost double it to 75,000 square feet, plus 104,000 square feet for a 4-story self-storage building. And that's a rendering of this Lutgert building. Again, going to be just north of, right next to the Haven, adjacent to the entrance of the Haven project. So we believe whatever is approved today will have an influence on what your decision is on July 11th when they're proposing this almost doubling of density and square footage for that commercial project. As you probably heard, we've been very involved from last September. We met with the developer. We met with Mike Bosey and his staff. We met with Mike Sawyer and Trinity Scott and the transportation group. We met with Cormac Gilbin and the housing. The staff has been very responsive, by the way, and answering our questions and really helpful, and we appreciate that. When we met with Mike Bosey, he made it very clear the Orange Blossom Airport Road corridor is not designated an urban activity center by the county. It's not like a Logan Square. It's not like a Founders Square. It's not like Pine Ridge Road and Airport Road. It's not like the Mercado area. This is a residential neighborhood, mostly single-family homes, 2- and 3-story condos and apartments, a church, library, service center, Italian-American center. So this stretch of Airport Road, right here, where they are proposing the developer told us it's going to be 500 to 700 cars is what they're estimated for the Haven project. The Lutgert Medical Building project, they've told us in their information meeting, 300 to 500 cars daily. So there's a huge concern about safety at this section, which is already very busy. This stretch of Airport Road has the 3rd highest number of crashes and the 3rd highest crash rate in Collier County. The schools in this area are already at capacity. And as I mentioned, the number of cars both these projects will bring. We think it's going to be a disaster here. So again, we're not saying nothing. We're just saying it should be lower density, lower height, more consistent to keep, we know there's going to be growth. I mean, that's happening in our county. We live in this beautiful place. But we can do something that's responsible so we don't have a disaster or just an out of control area. And we pulled this from the 2045 Long Range Transportation Plan, and it just shows here, so Airport Road from Pine Ridge Road to Orange Blossom, 455 crashes, the 3rd highest in the county, but also the crash rate over here, 4.943, was the 3rd highest crash rate. So any increase is going to increase it, but if this is just blown up to the maximum, we feel this is going to will probably go to the top of that list. So again, asking for a balanced answer. This is just showing the schools. Pine Ridge Middle School, no capacity. Barron Collier, no capacity. Pelican Marsh Elementary, no capacity. So again, we're going to be adding students here, but again, something reasonable makes more sense on this property. When we met with zoning director Mike Bosey, he told us, and that the applicant confirmed this, that 10-acre vacant parcels, agriculture allows 1 unit per 5 acres. The normal zoning, if you agree to rezone this under the growth management plan, the applicant would be eligible for a maximum of 60 units, 4 units per acre. And based on our meeting with Mike Bosey, if the applicant includes the 76 affordable units under the growth management plan, they would be eligible for a maximum of 150 units, 10 units per acre. And this is, I'm just going to pull this. You can help me with this. So this is just a chart showing, this came from the growth management plan, that at 20%, and they're just over 20% affordable units. At the 80%, they have some 80 and some 100% of median income. It's 6 additional. So allowing 6 additional on top of the 4 that they're eligible for, and you can take that off now. So again, back to a maximum of 10 units per acre based on the growth management plan. The applicant made it very clear that the Haven apartments are being built on this track B here. This is the Carlisle, and we just want to make sure that the commissioners consider this based on the number of units being built on the 14.57 acres of track B, which would be 23.06 units per acre. And not include, because the Carlisle has people living in it, you can't use that land and those acreage for your density calculations when it's going to be being built here. And this was just, this was an email from the staff. Final actual height of 60 feet. And just as a reference point, the actual height, Haven of 60 feet, the actual height of the Carlisle is 42 feet. So that's what we believe is cohesive with this area. Net density, 23 units per acre. As you saw, this was from our meeting with them. These are going to be very expensive units, 4,200 carriage unit, 4,100 3-bedroom, 3,200, and 2,200 for 1-bedroom, with a small affordable component. But this is going to be a luxury, expensive complex. So what are the issues that we hear in just our business and living here, and I'm sure you hear every day, that we all hear about? One is controlling the overbuilding, overcrowding, congestion, and traffic. The number 2, right behind that, creating more affordable housing. But most people we speak with, they want responsible growth, a balanced growth, protect what we have now, add more to it, but do it in a reasonable way. And we can find a balanced approach. So from the Planning Commission, I thought it'd be helpful just to share, if you didn't have a chance to see this, Paul Shea, who voted with the residents, his quote was, at the Planning Commission when he voted against this project and with the residents. So you know, it's always a difficult situation when you're trying to balance community benefit versus local community impact. I probably sit more on the other side of this. I am a champion of affordable housing. I don't really view this as an activity center like I would Logan Square in that. And I don't even see it close to that. It might get there, but it's not there yet. I think it's a little too dense. I think it's a little too tall. And I think it's not quite the same as the rest of the neighborhood. And I think we're giving up too much for 76 affordable housing units, personally. So I'm going to vote against it. Chuck Schumacher also voted against it, and he said, this is his quote, "I share the same sentiment. I can't find myself getting behind this at this point based on the density that we're seeing for only the amount of units for affordable housing. I think it has to be highlighted, the number of residents and those that came forward, not only here today, but also through their petitions and through that Orange Blossom Alliance, which has to be recognized. I mean, those residents are coming forward with their concerns. I understand the traffic side. I understand all of that. But again, I have to go back to this density, the height, and the lack that we're not achieving a full amount of affordable housing that we possibly could. So we believe as residents there's a win-win solution here, a more compatible size project, and this is just an example of something else that will be coming to the county commissioners, is my understanding. This is off on Vanderbilt Beach Road. This is the Ascend Naples apartment complex that's being proposed, 208 units on 17.5 acres, 11.9 units per acre, and still including 62 attainable units. So this developer here figured out how to do this. And the applicant is saying they can't make the numbers work, but we believe there is a developer out there, if this applicant can't, that can take this prime piece of land and make the numbers work with something that's more cohesive with the existing neighborhood and more consistent in height and density with the neighbors. So we're just asking you on behalf of all the residents here, of the Orange Blossom Alliance, of those 14 communities, and we appreciate the opportunity and we appreciate everyone's help through all these months from the staff, and we're just asking you to deny this as it's proposed today, and we appreciate the time.
Your next speaker is Diane Flagg. She'll be followed by Jennifer Palmer. Ms. Flagg has been seated additional time from Robert Rosenblum, Joyce Etchison, and...
Sir, you're not, who is it, just at the podium, you're not leaving, are you?
No.
Okay, because I'm going to have some questions for you, but I'm going to wait until everybody has spoken, so thank you.
And it begins with an R. I'm having a hard time reading this. The Renner, thank you, ma'am. Tony Kinnear, thank you. Karen Flynn, thank you. Dave Borsnell. Dave? I don't see a Dave. Okay. Oh, it's Dale. I'm sorry. Dale? Okay, he left. All right. Ellen Nowacki. All right. And William Gallman. Okay, that's going to give Diane a total of 15 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Diane Flagg, resident of North Naples. I've lived in Collier County for 40-plus years, served in county government for 32 years. I served as the Director of Code Enforcement, the Director of Transportation Alternative Modes, and the Chief of Emergency Services. We've all seen changes over the years.
Get a zoom out. Oh, okay. She's revealing. I'm sorry.
We know that growth is inevitable. What we know also is what is not inevitable. The growth management plan was designed to provide responsible growth. Overgrowth or overdevelopment is being caused by exemptions to the growth management plan. The County Commissioner's Growth Management Plan was enacted to ensure responsible growth. It establishes the vision, the framework, and the policies for future growth in Collier County. The Haven Project is eligible, not entitled to, but eligible for a maximum of 4 units per acre, or a total of 60 units. This is a picture of the Haven, and as you saw previously, there will be a shared entrance where the entrance already exists, and the bulk of the development is going to go on this 10 acres, this vacant 10 acres that the developer is proposing to purchase along with the shared entrance of the 5 acres. So the question is, why would a for-profit developer offer to provide affordable housing units? Reasonable question. Because increased density equals increased revenue. Logical, right? So you've seen this chart, but to understand, this chart is based on the Growth Management Plan Affordable Housing Density Bonus. Based on this project, under the Growth Management Plan, they're eligible for an additional 6 units per acre for a total 10 units maximum density per acre, or a total of 150 units by including affordable housing. So it's 4 units per acre is what the Growth Management Plan allows, and if they provide affordable housing, then they're eligible up to 10 units per acre for a maximum 150 acres. Units. However, the developer is proposing 336 units. 336 units, if you take out the base density at 60, which they're eligible for, gives them a bonus of 276 units. Remember, increased density equals increased revenue. So now we're going to look at the rental rates that the developer has provided. A carriage unit is going to rent for $4,200 a month. A 3-bedroom unit is going to rent for $4,100 a month. A 2-bedroom is going to rent for $3,200 a month. And a 1-bedroom is going to rent for $2,200 a month. If we just take an average monthly rent of $3,000, much less than the $4,200 at the carriage unit, and we multiply that times the 276 density bonus units, that equates to 828 hundreds per month of increased rental revenue, 828. If you multiply that times 12 months, that equates to almost $10 million per year in increased rental revenue. Another consideration, county staff has advised that the Growth Management Plan amendment and the PUD ordinance exempts the developer from the County Commissioner's Land Development Code regulations for affordable housing density bonus. The developer's proposed 3 paragraphs in the PUD ordinance, according to county staff, are the only enforceable items. So what that means is that the 11-page regulation for an affordable housing density bonus is fully exempted from this project. So let's take a look at what the PUD ordinance has excluded. We have the Commissioner's regulations, so let's look at what has been excluded in this PUD ordinance. What's been excluded is an agreement recorded with the clerk of courts that constitutes the covenants and restrictions and which run with the land and are binding upon the property, frequently known as a land use restriction agreement. It is not in the PUD ordinance. Also, what's been excluded is the number of affordable housing types. How many 1-bedroom units will they provide? How many 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and carriage units will they provide? That also has been excluded. In the Commissioner's regulation, it requires them, in order to get a density bonus, to identify the monthly rent by unit type. That has also been excluded. In the Commissioner's regulation, there's a process for civil and criminal enforcement when violations are identified. That's also been excluded. In your regulations, Land Development Code, there's a process for annual income verification and certification. That's also been excluded. In summary, the maximum eligible, not entitled to, The maximum eligible density without affordable housing units is 60 units. The maximum eligible density with affordable housing units is 150 units. The Haven PUD ordinance, as you've seen, provides an incomplete affordable housing commitment. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the Haven's Growth Management Plan Amendment and MPUD ordinance be denied. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just want to note, I had miscalculated Diane's time. It should have been 21 minutes. I did adjust that on the fly, and she did get close to using all of that. So Jennifer Palmer is your next speaker, and she will be followed by Dan Flynn.
How many more do you have on the list there?
12. Yeah.
For the record, Jennifer Palmer. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. As part of the Orange Blossom Airport Road Alliance, I would like to use my time to share what it's like as a mother raising children in the area. My family lives local in Il Regalo. We're about 200 to 300 feet from the Haven property line. Il Regalo is a small community of 35 single-family homes off Orange Blossom and Yarberry Road. I am the current board president. When moving to the area, my husband and I fell in love with the community, all the communities off the Orange Blossom Airport Road corridor, and said to ourselves, this is where we want to raise our family. We loved that the homes in this area are all nestled together in a compatible fashion. Picture residents out and about, walking their dogs, exercising, and pushing babies in strollers. Our kids' friends live down the street at Monterey, Mill Run, Avery Square, and Autumn Woods, and under current circumstances, it would be reasonable to have them walk to their friends' houses. Oftentimes after school, the kids and I like to walk to the library to read books and play games. We walk to the area events, government buildings, and the churches. The walkability of this area is truly something special and must be preserved. I am concerned about adding this high-density apartment complex and the other proposed developments here. I know that it will change what is now a harmonious area. This will affect quality of life. For the record, our family is pro-development. But for this project, we feel that a density much closer to that of the growth management plan would be a better fit, while still allowing for a suitable value for the seller and for the tax roll. Look at Palisades and Cambridge Park as prime examples. The applicant's proposed density will be tough, very tough. The noise levels, activity, lighting, and traffic will all change. This will definitely bring life safety concern. The Haven plan is essentially like trying to fit 3 dozen eggs and a regular but fancier 12-egg package and saying nothing will break. It does not fit the vision or framework of this area, and it's not cohesive with the growth management plan in place. The Commission must look ahead and visualize what the Haven project will look like 10 years from now. Will it look like the Carlisle project, with its parking lot now turned into a holding area for open dumpsters, storage units, and debris? There is right now only a chain link fence with no landscaping buffer separating the properties. The Carlisle staff takes items that they are disposing out into the parking lot, and then they smash and break the glass and other materials into the dumpster. Not the type of industrious activity that anyone would want to see from their residents. As commissioners, you are entrusted to protect and defend the best interest of the county and its residents. I plead with you to make the right decision on behalf of the existing residents and this community by denying this application in its current state.
Ma'am, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So, just to not have you come back here. So
Sure.
you're the leader of what community of the HOA and what community?
I'm at Il Regalo.
Okay. So when you've watched the Carlisle do all these unacceptable things, what have you or any of the other community leaders done to meet with the Carlisle so that dumpsters are covered, more landscape is included, glass isn't broken? What has been done to address that?
Well, the first thing is, we wanted to give them the benefit of doubt. We know there was a hurricane. We wondered, is this something going on because they're, taking care of problems, flooding, that type of thing? So we looked at open permits. We wanted to know, is there an open permit that justifies this use? If so, it's understandable. Unfortunately, we didn't see anything. So our next step in this process is to talk to the manager of the Carlisle, go to code enforcement. But the bigger picture here is that this is something that, is this something that people find normal for this type of use? Is this the type of thing? These projects are overflowing, and they do need a place for garbage, for dumpsters, and it needs to be thought out so that there is a good location for this when they do need it.
Yeah, and I ask that not to totally separate from this, but I appreciate that you've stepped forward as a community leader, and we have departments here in the county that can oversee that, and we actually have had a lot of success. So this is sort of separate from this, but I don't want to miss this nugget because there's actually quite a few communities that have had this issue where the dumpsters started to get more sloppy, the noise was more, out of standard, and different communities started to take some liberties, and we've been able to jump on that quickly. Like I said, we have leadership in this building here that can go out and partner with you to make sure that we get the Carlisle's attention if in fact all these things are, like you said, sort of ramping up out of the norm. So I take that as a side, but whatever we can do at the county, if it's you that want to take up that charge or join with us, or there's other HOA members, that's certainly, we got those complaints a lot after Hurricane Ian, obviously, like you said, and then some came back to us and said, hey, it's just temporary, we've got a lot of damage, we've got a lot of contractors here, this isn't going to be the norm. Some others turned out to continue to be the norm, but there are ways that we can attack that. So it's separate from this issue, but not really. I mean, you just brought it up, so I appreciate it. So I'm logging that away. I want to hear from somebody, and obviously this is Commissioner Hall's district, but what you just said had merit for sure, and we've seen it in other places. So I just wanted to get clarification. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Your next speaker is Dan Flynn, and he'll be followed by Ralph Brooks.
Good morning.
Sir, you need to be on the microphone, please.
I'm sorry. My name is Daniel Flynn. I'm a retired veterinarian living in Walden Oaks, a community of 321 homes located directly across from the proposed North Haven community and the adjacent proposed medical center and storage facility, one property north. Walden Oaks is located on Airport Poolin Road. Our entrance-exit access is directly across from the proposed North Haven community. Our residents, when coming from the north, must cross 3 lanes of traffic to enter our community using a short access lane. This has caused a backup onto Airport Poolin when more than 6 cars are waiting in to make the turn. Likewise, our residents, upon leaving our community, desiring to go south, must cross 3 lanes of traffic to make the U-turn or proceed to Orange Blossom to make the U-turn, again crossing 3 lanes of traffic. We share these issues with the community Windward Isles, consisting of 30 homes, which is adjacent to Walden Oaks. The addition of 330 units on the proposed North Haven will add an additional 500 to 700 cars accessing these lanes on Airport, creating a significant safety hazard for residents, vendors, school buses, as we have a number of children, and guests utilizing these access points. I do not have a concern with development of a piece of property. My concern is maximizing the density on property without regard to daily safety issues being created by the additional resident units being added to the area. The residents of Walden Oaks are asking the commissioners to deny the high-density 60-foot high apartment complex, which would be 43% higher than the nearest neighboring complex, the 42-foot Carlisle retirement community. We are asking you to protect this beautiful part of Naples. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Ralph Brooks. He'll be followed by H. Michael Mogill. Mr. Brooks has been seated additional time from Joseph Ognabene. Joseph, are you here? I do not see Joseph. Dan Huprich. Dan is here. So Mr. Brooks will have a total of 6 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Ralph Brooks, attorney. I'm board certified in city, county, and local government law. And I'm here today representing the residents of the Orange Blossom Airport Road Alliance. I think you heard before, they have some 3,000 members that have signed petitions from 14 communities in the area. I think you've also heard that the highest nearby building is 42 feet, and here they're asking for 60 feet. I think you've heard also that the nearby densities at the properties, Bear Creek Apartments is 14 units per acre. And here they're asking for 23 on track B. If we look at other apartment complexes that are going to have affordable attainable units, the Ascend apartment complex is 11.9 units per acre. So Ascend earned 11.9 units per acre, and they have 62 affordable units. There's two things that are in front of you today. One is a comp plan amendment, and all comp plan amendments, the Florida Supreme Court has said, are legislative. So you can say no to a comp plan amendment, particularly one that's generated by an applicant and not by your own staff for any rational reason. You can just simply say no. The rezonings, the Florida Supreme Court ruled in the Snyder case that it's the developer's obligation to show you that they're consistent with the comp plan, including your affordable housing density bonus table and other things that you've looked at. And you can, even if the developer shows they're consistent with the comp plan or changes your comp plan to try to gain more consistency, you can still say no to a rezoning for any legitimate public purpose. This project is too dense, it's too tall for the surrounding neighborhoods, and that's relevant to the existing land use pattern. That's your planned unit development criteria 10. It also grants, in my opinion, a special privilege because you're allowing them to exceed that affordable housing density. If they were to obtain 12 units bonus, up to 16 units, and I think they're saying they're at 12 overall, even if you count the existing Carlisle ACLF, which although they may claim they're hospital-type beds, they're actually independent living facilities. The people there live much like anyone in an apartment would. So again, they'd have to have 80% of their units affordable to get less than what they're asking for. So you're letting them have more density, but you're not requiring the 80% of the units be affordable. If you look at that chart, you want to examine it quite closely, and that'll bring that to light, that at 12 units an acre, you have to have 80% of your units at 80% average median income. Then you can go up 12 units per acre as a bonus. And in no event shall you exceed 16 units per acre. Here they're asking for 23 units per acre. And on track B, which is this development, they're only giving you something like 22% affordable housing. So not 80%. So if you really want to promote affordable housing, you should hold them to the same standard that we're promoting for everybody else. If we let them get away with providing less than is required to get that density, then that takes away the incentive for other developers to really pursue affordable housing as an option. Just had a few more things. The area you've heard from the residents is primarily low-density single-family homes. There are two and three-story low-rise condominiums, but there are no four-story. There's a one-story library, a one-story government office, a one-story church. And the only place that is three-story nearby is the Carlisle community. Now they want to take this to 4 stories. So we ask that you not do that. That would establish a precedent for the area as well. Citizen testimony that you've heard today from the member representatives of our alliance and also additional residents that you hear today, you can consider that to be competent substantial evidence as long as it's fact-based, as long as it's based on observations, the aerials, the drone footage, the maps of the surrounding area. That's all valid reasons that you can use in your rezoning to deny. Including traffic safety. Even if you meet traffic levels of service, if there are concerns about safety, if we know that this area is the 3rd highest accidents and it has problems with traffic, you can certainly approve something less than what they're asking for. You can direct staff to create a comp plan amendment for this area that would be cohesive with the rest of the area and consistent with your comprehensive plan. You don't have to approve every developer's request for an applicant-generated comp plan amendment. And again, they don't even own this property, so this is an opportunity now to establish what could go on this property. And we don't want to waste that opportunity. And if we're going to do affordable housing, let's do it right and require more than 22%. And let's lower the height and let's lower the density. Thank you very much.
Your next speaker is H. Michael Mogill. He will be followed by Mara Foley.
Good morning. I don't know where to start here. This is my first exposure to this project. I didn't even know about it until a friend told me about it. I live 5 miles away from it, but I am a frequent traveler to Orange Blossom Library because I tutor students there, as well as many, many other tutors. And I travel down airport all the time to get around the area. So I'm impacted by this project, even though I live 5 miles away, and I knew nothing about it. I went on the county website to try to find information about it. There's all types of information on the site in forms that's unintelligible to me. I'm sorry, I'm a scientist, but it was unintelligible. And there's a sign on the road, the big sign that says, development, we're going to do this, we're going to have meetings. That sign is parallel to the roadway. If I don't stop to take a picture of it and study it later, or drive by trying to take a picture of it, although I am good at that as a storm chaser, the problem is I can't get that information. That sign is not posted at the website telling me, we're going to do this project, comment on it. Everyone around Naples is impacted by this corridor. They drive all over the city, they're on this corridor. I want to recommend that anytime there's a development project, the county take a picture of the sign, put a map on the website, and stick pictures of those signs and a link to where all the information is about development. Otherwise, there's no sunshine for me. I'm in the dark. But even more important than that is I want to talk about traffic. There's 2 exits from the Orange Blossom Library and the government complex, which are both very busy places, by the way, and people usually come out of those wanting to make a left turn to get to airport pulling. There are many days when at 4 and 5 in the afternoon, I can't make a left turn out of the library because there's so much traffic coming eastbound on Orange Blossom Library. Add this project with the entrance and exit on the other side of the road, and you're asking for car crashes. Seriously, it's tough over there. The development that was mentioned a few minutes ago from Ascend is on Vanderbilt Beach Road, and it's the same problem as we have at this one. There is basically one exit from the development with hundreds of cars that are going to be going out of that development. One entrance and one exit. I also wonder whether or not the numbers of projected traffic increase from that development are realistic. I was HOA president at an association in Maryland, and the traffic study that was done had the traffic going the wrong way at rush hour traffic in order to come up with better numbers. We sent it back to them to redo the study, and lo and behold, they had to make all types of changes. So thank you for your time. I'm going to be involved in this. It's important, and it goes far beyond the airport Orange Blossom corridor. It's all of Naples.
Your next speaker is Mara Foley. She'll be followed by Laura, is it Quintas? Quintano, thank you. I'm sorry, could not read your writing. Mara?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Mara Foley with Habitat for Humanity of Collier County. I wanted to let you know that we did speak with the developers on this project. We think it's a very thoughtful design, and we're excited to see that the affordable housing commitment is voluntarily being made. Other developers are making commitments closer to 120% and below of the area median income, while this group is coming in and making a commitment of 100% and 80% and below of the area median income. If this project is not approved as it's proposed, I find it hard to believe that somebody else will be able to make the numbers work and that we'll have affordable housing on this site. It's a great location, close to jobs, keeping traffic down and keeping folks where they work and play. So I support this project, and I appreciate your time today.
Your next speaker is Laura Quintano. She'll be followed by Dan Capes.
Thank you. My name is Laura Quintano.
I am a retired resident living in Calusa Bay. I'm not a public speaker. But I'm here to tell you that I oppose the project and oppose the growth management plan exception in exchange for the affordable housing. I worked in a mid-sized city in the Midwest and was the quality control analyst over our affordable housing portfolio. There are many ways to do affordable housing in both the financing and in the agreements. But plans and promises do not bring affordable housing. If there is no enforceable land use restriction agreement, there will not be long-term affordable housing. So I stand with the Orange Blossom Coalition, and I appreciate the time that you have provided to me.
Your next speaker is Dan Capes. He'll be followed by Val Danayar.
Yes, my name is Dan Capes. I appreciate your time. All the other speakers have covered the details and the numbers. I'll just relay an anecdotal experience for you. We've lived off of Orange Blossom for 23 years. We live in Emerald Lakes. Some of you look older than me, some younger. Those younger, congratulations. But when we moved there, there was no library, no county services. There was the animal shelter there. We could hear the dogs at night howling, and there were horses out there. Across the street, there was an empty lot. Around the corner, there was an empty parcel. We understood that there would be growth, and that's the nature of it. Most people have not lived here their whole lives, right? So we have to balance growth with the people that are here already, the community. I remember when your predecessors were going to build the library and the community, the services building, we were afraid there'd be some huge building there. Your predecessors balanced community needs with maintaining character. When the community across the street was going to be built from an empty parcel, we were afraid there'd be giant buildings. Your predecessors balanced growth with community feel. It's happened over and over again. Now we're at the 9th inning, if you like baseball. You know, we're at the last few parcels in that area. If you allow this to go in at this height and this density, then the next development's going to say, why not us? And the next development that's all there in that corner. You're going to change a very community-feeling area into a commercial-feeling area. And the traffic, all those other considerations are there too. But this plan is too much and too small of a place. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Val Danayar. He'll be followed by David Reklidis. Val, did you? David? Val, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Yes. Dear commissioners, thank you very much for allowing me to speak here. And I'm speaking against this project because we lived in the Orange Blossom community, my family, for almost 20 years. There is a definitive character to the community, and allowing such density to be increased will definitely impair all of the efforts by all of the communities around Orange Blossom to continue with beautification, to mitigate damages by the hurricane. Another topic that I wanted to bring up to you is that it's been already talked about, the traffic and the safety. Safety to where our kids do walk to the library, do walk to the churches, do walk to the cultural events that take place. They bike, and the increasing density here, we already see the impact of higher traffic. Another thing is that current requirements of the code will make the building stand taller as the newer raised buildings are being built there. And I wanted to see the environmental studies that are backed up by water management, because we, as the last hurricane showed to us, we do have major concerns about water congregation in certain areas around the older communities, also in the areas of natural habitat preservation. So, for example, the area of natural preservation, natural preserve between Stonegate, and the Mill Run is constantly overflooded. We have problems with the mosquitoes, with the wildlife growth, with certain things that are not being controlled or addressed. Such density will significantly impact water congregation in those areas. It will make it worse, it will make it less manageable, and there'll be all sorts of different outcomes that we do not have the proper studies for. So beside all of the concerns that were already voiced here, I urge you, commissioners, to look at the environmental and water management studies deeper and deny this project, because high density will definitely impact Orange Blossom beside all the safety concerns. Thank you very much.
Your next speaker is David Reklidis. He'll be followed on Zoom by Joseph Whalen.
Mr. Miller, how many more do we have?
3.
Just trying to judge the time. So what we'll do is we're going to finish public comment, then we're going to take a lunch break so that we can have a nice division of, and then we'll have probably Mr. Bosey come up to the podium, as would be my guess, after lunch. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, esteemed commissioners. I've been in the area for 20 years, and I've noticed the growth. We've got 2 seasons, in-season, out-of-season type of thing, and in-season's pretty traumatic for a lot of people. And of course, a lot of compliments go for the framework developers of the growth program that's going on. But unfortunately, history's repeating itself. We're getting overpopulated, and that's just naturally by single resident families with their kids getting driver's licenses and everything else. And recently, no one's mentioned anything about Sienna Lakes. They just put in like 170 units over there. Now there's no more parking over at the public supermarket. Sam's Club, you gotta scoot and skedaddle to get a parking spot sometimes. I'm a victim of COVID. I now suffer chronic pain. I have bilateral hip replacements. A lot of this stuff, parking farther away, is not really a big issue, right now for me, because I could still hobble along. But a few years from now, it's going to be like, hey, there's no more parking spaces here. How am I supposed to get from in and out of the store, let alone? We're overpopulated as it is. That's just from Sienna Lakes going in. Maybe we should stop for a little bit and see the complete impact of what Sienna Lakes has done, and maybe just put a freeze on these buildings going on. Putting in more buildings is like insanity. I mean, it's been attributed to a couple people that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Right now, you make that turn going down to JC Boulevard or Naples Boulevard, the traffic's horrendous by the time you hit Pine Ridge. It's just like, where all these cars come from? You go the other way, same thing, going to Vanderbilt. The traffic is just horrendous. And the lines are getting extremely blurred in between season and out of season. A lot more people are staying here. So, I don't know, we might be thinking maybe we should expand our parking lots instead of putting houses on top of houses and stacking people on top of people to make more residents and more units. I think we need to take a look at exactly where we're going with this growth program and maybe reconsider a couple of these items of allowing extra people to be living on top of people 3-4 stories tall. I mean, hey, let's just put in single residency houses and stuff. I think that's probably a little bit better to go for. Thank you for listening to me. Please have a pleasant afternoon.
Your next speaker on Zoom is Joseph Whalen. He'll be followed on Zoom by Lawrence Smith. Mr. Whalen, you should be getting prompted to unmute your microphone if you'll do so at this time. And there you are. Mr. Whalen, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Joe Whalen. I'm with the ownership group at Carlisle Naples. I'm here to observe the proceedings. I have no other comments at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Your next speaker on Zoom is Lawrence Smith. Mr. Smith, you should be prompted to unmute your microphone if you'll do so at this time. And Mr. Smith, I see you're unmuted. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, commissioners. My name is Lawrence Smith, and I am president of Bridgewater Bay, representing over 1,000 very concerned residents. I'm also a commercial and housing developer in Boston, in our nation's capital, namely Georgetown, Washington, D.C. I would urge this board to deny, D-E-N-Y. D is for dangerous. All the previous speakers have spoken about the the dangerous intersection in this area. It is one of the most dangerous intersections in all of Naples. We have significant traffic coming from Orange Blossom with over 8,000 residents in this area. It is a residential area. Don't let planning staff describe 8,000 plus residents along Orange Blossom as anything but residential. I would point out that in the growth management plan, those commercial use are supposed to be supportive for the surrounding community. Those are the ones that are placed at the intersections. Now, while I'm very, very supportive of affordable housing, I think they're giving up some of the potential commercial use of this site that could be residential supported. I also want to point out some things on the dangerous traffic that we're seeing in the area. It's been mentioned about the dangerous traffic weaving pattern for anyone that's pulling out of the site onto airport pulling, much more than the existing weaving patterns. The county is already looking at having to repave the intersection by the Greek church, the nursery, namely this intersection at airport pulling and Orange Blossom. The time for the other developer to repave that road is come and gone. The county and our citizens are needing to spend tax dollars to repair other developers' mistakes in the immediate area is not the way to go. Please don't create a dangerous precedent in giving a height variance and allowing a dangerous density bonus for a developer that has not done their proper due diligence and technical submission for this rezoning. This rezoning is a privilege, it's not a right. The 5 other developments that they are comparing this project to, such as Lely, are not comparable at all to Orange Blossom and airport pulling. One of the commissioners mentioned the priceless nature of one life. Well, this is a very, very dangerous intersection. Examine the roads out there. It's absurd to me that this developer is allowed to use the ITE trip generation manual, a manual even in its 11th edition that is over 2 years old and does not, they have not done a detailed traffic study of that intersection. So the previous speaker mentioned level of service. They don't even know what the level of service is at that intersection. But I can tell you from my experience, it's level of service F, meaning failed. N is for need. While I respect the need for affordable housing, I also respect the N, which is the commissioners should be negotiating this. I think the planning staff should have negotiated the management plan. We do need affordable housing, but we don't need to give this project away. Deny it or reduce it to 150 units or less, what is their matter of right, to get 3-story matter of right housing. The developer will be able to generate revenue of well over $5 million annually. Those project costs are going to be reducing in proportion. He will be easily able to get 5.5%. Do you know what 5.5% of this project would cap out at in value? It's tremendous. So negotiate with the developer for affordable units in all 4 categories: carriage units, 1-bedroom units, 2-bedroom units, and 1-bedroom units. I did the math, and if you apply the unit, instead of talking about units, talk about bedrooms. The developer kind of tap danced around that he wasn't going to be restricted to applying this affordable housing in all categories. Even if he went to the matter of right level, let's just say 150 units, and applied his 22%, which is very low for affordable housing requirement, he would come up with 73 bedrooms versus the 76 that he's proposing just in using 1-bedroom units. I would also point out that in many, many other states, and I suspect your affordable housing guidelines are going to change, they require this 25%, or they require that the specific ratios be spread across the entire housing type that the development has. Affordable housing units are supposed to be transparent to the community. They're not supposed to be all jammed into the smallest one-bedroom units. So why, finally, why? Why is for you. We are the residents and we're asking you to deny this, to pause. This project will certainly come back. It is far too well located and there's far too much money to be made for any developer for it not to come back. We will applaud your leadership when you deny this and bring this back to a better project to us. We ask you to deny. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back here at, let's come back here at an even 1:30.